in a state of pecuniary distress. I don't move unless it's for a check. Have my lawyer check if the deal is the best. Have my assistant gather my personal effects. Moving from a mansion to a bigger mansion, blessed. Product-based business, I ain't investing the index. Your life's a wreck, mine got decimals and respect. Resource constraint, that's your whole refrain. In a season of economic restraint, you stressed. I'm signing with a pen that got weight in the vein. You counting pocket lint while I count the excess. I'm moving my assistant in my penthouse, actually, so we can get this money more rapidly. While you engaged in involuntary frugality, the bright side, you unencumbered by excess wealth. I can handle the weight of this money myself. I carry well, I carry well, I carry well. You look at the bills like a problem to solve. I make the same pile look easy as hell. Pecuniary distress, that ain't me. Pecuniary distress can't be. I don't move unless it's for a check. I don't move unless it's for a check. Pecuniary distress, that ain't me. Pecuniary distress can't be. I carry well, I carry well, I carry well, I carry well, carry well, carry well. No impoverished females asking people got money, cause they too broke to tell that part is funny. They clock my wrist and they clock my floor, then they hear the echo when I open the door. Big numbers, clean commas, sharp calculus. You call it luck, I call it practice. Every move audited, every room fitted. It deal ain't the best, I don't get with it. Have my lawyer check it twice, then the third time through. With the closed eye teeth, I bite right through. I don't hoard, I just grow, that's the truth. From a smaller safe to a vault in view, I'm moving my assistant in my penthouse, actually, so we can get this money more rapidly. While you engaged in involuntary frugality, the bright side, you unencumbered by excess wealth. I can handle the weight of this money myself. I carry well, I carry well, I carry well. You look at the bills like a problem to solve. I make the same pile look easy as hell. Pecuniary distress.
Peace to the saints. If you'd be kind enough to confirm if the audio is all clear, or if you hear a little bit of static, then we'll go ahead and get into this as we go through. If you have any comments, questions, ties, tuition, or if you feel like you want to come on live stream to clarify a position, you can use the information in the description of the video or in the banner below. Send in your email address and we'll make sure that we're able to bring you on. Fantastic. Good to hear that it's clear. All right, let's go ahead and rock and roll. Here we go. And we're resuming from where we were last night. So starting where we stopped off. Go ahead and maximize that.
Go ahead.
And we can remember that we're discussing if Christianity is a good thing, a good force in the world, right? We're not going back and forth on doctrine. I'm talking about the actual actions of Christians. Seems as though you need to move to the realm of abstraction.
You don't think ethics are in the abstract?
I'm asking you why we can't. Now, I want you to notice what he did. Now, that's one of the points where you're like, is this guy not very intelligent? I stated that we're talking about the actual actions of Christians because that's what matters in the world. That's what affects people's daily lives, behavior, human behavior. And I stated that he feels the need to go into the abstraction. Well, most people, abstraction is not impacting their lives. They want to know about gas prices. They want to know if they're going to be safe. They want to make sure there are no threats and dangers in their neighborhoods. Abstraction is irrelevant. And much of what we were discussing was supposed to be focused on the actions. I stated that from the very beginning. I have no interest in discussing philosophy with someone who's of no consequence. It's irrelevant. So I just stated, you're running from reality into abstraction. And then he says the following.
You don't think
need to move to the realm of abstraction.
You don't think ethics are in the abstract?
Then he says, you don't think ethics are in the abstract. Are you a fool? That's irrelevant. And that's my whole point, is that I'm not having a conversation with you about abstraction. I'm having a conversation with you about mass murder, that was committed by those you say are supposed to be the good ones on earth. And that's where we find that consistently he was engaging red herrings, straw man, the no true Scotsman fallacy, non sequiturs, and much else, all in attempts to not actually engage the substance of the conversation. I've never seen anything like it. Of course, you can expect that certain types, and undoubtedly those who are zealots, will do anything to defend their position, but this was extraordinary. I'm asking you why we can't simply discuss.
Yeah, let's talk about ethics.
Christian
Fine.
did this.
How do we know what are
this
the
was
ethics?
the outcome? Okay, so the dishonesty here is very clear. I just said I have no interest in discussing ethics with you. We must only discuss the behaviors, because the behaviors are downstream from the ethics. If your Christian ethics are real, if your Christianity is true, if Christianity is a good force, then that will impact the behavior of Christians. And so what we're analyzing is the behavior of Christians in mass groups as Christians, operating essentially as the church. And so strangely, it's like he didn't even hear it or register. It's extremely bizarre. Now, this would have been a point where the moderator would say, well, maybe you're not tracking what he's saying. He said this.
You don't think ethics are in the abstract?
I'm asking. He literally didn't comprehend what I said, or he's just trying his best to stay off topic. You why we can't simply discuss.
Yeah, let's talk about ethics.
Christian
Fine.
did this.
How do we know what are
this
the
was
ethics?
the outcome? It was
What's
negative.
the ethical system?
And why is it scaling across different? And see, this is where you have the idlers and the people who think that they're bright with no evidence. He's attempting to discuss things that have no impact in the world, that are completely irrelevant. Whereas I'm saying, let's talk about that, which is absolutely critical. And he's saying, no. Let's stay talking about things that have no impact. Let's talk about the things that stop us from actually assessing if my ideology does good. Christian societies across the Dutch, the English, the French, the Portuguese, the Americans, and they're all Christian.
I could argue that all men have engaged in these types of activities.
Okay, now is that a fallacy? I'm gonna wait. I know there has to be some diehard Christian zealots in the audience who may understand logic. I'm going to wait for you to identify the logical fallacy there. I said we're having a debate about Christians. So I said Christians did these activities, which are historically documented. They did it across many Christian societies and many denominations. And they did this as an organized church. And then he said, well, other people did it too. Well, be that as it may, that may be true. It's certainly a logical fallacy. And in addition, that doesn't make it right. You see, if I were to take the lives of my neighbors, and then when the police come to arrest me, I say, hey, well, my other neighbor is also a serial killer. They're not going to say, oh, well, in that case, you can go free. They're like, no, he's also guilty. That doesn't make it right because someone else did it. Exactly. It's clearly a logical fallacy. And the comedy is that, the fools who follow him, these acolytes, they're not honest people because they attempt to identify logical fallacies against me where there are none. And in cases such as this, which are so blatant, they just pretend as though they didn't catch the logical fallacy. And he himself pretends as though he didn't catch the logical fallacy. It's just completely inane.
Because they are fallen human beings. So that's why is that not a equally applicable?
And what I'm trying to understand is, if Christianity is a good system, why is Christianity not producing Christians?
Well, again,
because the idea is that Christians, behave morally.
And what is it in your mind? What does that mean?
Now, here's the funny thing. Again, the evasiveness is utterly bizarre in as much as, well, I know why he's doing it, but it's dishonest because Christianity establishes its own code of ethics. And I'm simply stating that according to the ethics defined in the Bible, why is it that we're not seeing any significant bulwark against crimes against humanity, bulwark against constant warring, bulwark against racial discrimination, bulwark against all of these things that are described by your text as ills, even in your commandments? And the escapist logic that he uses is no true Scotsman. Oh, well, these aren't real Christians. Well, I don't consider these Christians. I'm an Orthodox Christian. They're Catholic. They're Protestant. They're not real Christians. So it's either that one, or it's the idea of like, oh, well, they're human beings. Human beings have flaws. Yes, for sure. But in as much as that's the case, what we have to ask ourselves is, well, couldn't you use that with any system? Anytime someone violates, we just say, oh, well, human beings are imperfect, but it's not about individual human beings. What I'm suggesting is that they're actually utilizing the structures of Christianity to commit the evil. And that is why Christianity holds culpability, because they're using the structures and the theology and the Bible itself. And that is where there's an issue. If we could avoid the definition game, it's
so I don't know what you mean by a true Christian or what's good. What do you think that is?
We defined Christian earlier, so we don't have to keep going back and forth on that. And I know you're trying to slow the discussion down. You're trying to slow the discussion down so that we don't have to address the ideas.
You agreed to
address the crimes.
But you agreed to.
So what I'm asking you is
baptism,
what I'm asking you,
profession of faith.
Sure. What I'm asking you.
So now you're asking for where's the ethical.
Why do we observe these horrors among people who say that they're Christians? And you've stated that Christianity is a system that produces goodness. Christianity is a good thing. Then why do we see the genocide, the eradication of the Native Americans?
Because Christianity doesn't say that humans can't still sin.
So like and you see, this is, if your system is, he's basically saying that there's no accountability. There's no accountability in the system. He's saying that if you're a Christian and you do wrong, then you're just a sinner. If you're a Christian and you do wrong, you're just an individual. If you're a Christian and you do wrong, you're just not a Christian. If you're a Christian and you do wrong, you're just corrupt. There's never an expectation that the system performs at a certain level. For example, my internet provider, they give you what's called, actually they didn't, but they should. When I was running a software company, I'd give the businesses we work with in SLA a service level agreement. And we'd say we have 98% uptime. Only 2% of the time this system may not work due to maintenance or due to updates or things like that, or even due to error. 2% of the time it won't work. But 98% of the time you can log on to our technology, it'll work swimmingly. And what I'm essentially asking him is, well, why is it that your system is down so frequently? Your system is underperforming so frequently. It's okay if an individual here, or even a significant number of individuals, but the majority should be going in the right direction. The majority should not be collaborating to support the extermination of the Native Americans. They should not be collaborating to support violent countries in the Middle East, whether it's with their tax dollars, their soldiers, or much else. They shouldn't be collaborating in enslaving entire populations. And what's more is your church itself, including the Orthodox Church, should not own slaves. Like that is the greatest condemnation of Christianity. And just the mere fact that the moderator didn't make him address that, nor did he address it, is just very dishonest. And it lets you know that zealots will never deal in reason ever when it relates to things that are unfavorable to their religion. Where's the goodness? Like where's the goodness that, like, why do we find consistently that Christians are creating mass death?
So what is the goodness that you're expecting?
Well, tell me, what is the goodness that we should expect from Christians, since you're the Orthodox?
I think we have the 10 Commandments. We have.
Okay, so now here's the funny thing. So he says, "What's the goodness?" I say, "Well, what is the goodness?" And I'm speaking of on a behavioral level, right? On a behavioral level. So track this. And I've only been speaking about behavior the entire time, the behavior of Christians.
The moral law.
In terms of like behavior in the world, not in terms of your scripture, in terms of like the behavior of the real world.
That is what our system would be. You're asking me what the good is. The good is.
So is one of the commandments thou. So you see him running again. So he's basically doing the following. For example, in Mexico, selling your body is illegal in the law, de jure. But if you go to Tijuana, you see many women selling themselves de facto, meaning the reality. So if I were to tell you that Mexico is a land wherein women don't sell themselves because the law says so, you would know that I'm lying and that the law has no meaning, which means that the law is invalid effectively. The law is invalid. Marquette, does that mean that every woman selling herself in Mexico? No. It means that enough are selling themselves that it lets you know that the law is invalid. And the most important thing to understand, if say you're going to Mexico, you're taking your children, you're going to Tijuana, and you're going to take your family, do you want to know if the law says you can't sell yourself as a woman, or do you want to know if there's a significant number of women selling themselves around the resort? You want to know if there's a significant number of women selling themselves. That is the point. That's the important thing. So in the absence of dealing with that which is substantive, he wants to deal with the letter of the law, which is not being enforced. It's not being acted upon in any significant way. You can find in any Christian country people lying, cheating, and stealing. And if you look at the ethics, whether you're considering the law or the practice in countries that purport to be Christian, you find that the morality is not there. OF, for example, that's in Christian countries. You don't find that in the Islamic world. You don't find that in the African continent. These are things that are in the liberal democracies, which are Christian countries. So not kill.
Sure.
Okay. So the mass murder of the Native Americans is a egregious violation of that. This was put into law. As I mentioned earlier, we find that Christian societies overwhelmingly have justified this. America is a Christian organization or Christian country. There's even the claim that Americans came here for religious freedom, which is not the whole story.
Well, I don't know that I don't even have to grant that America's Christian, but even if I did, how does this get you to the conclusion that?
So no, what I'm asking is, how do you get to the conclusion that Christianity is and you see the dishonesty? We're arguing about Christianity. So it's really his claim that we're investigating. And his perpetual effort is not to defend a position, but rather to attempt to attack a position. And that's why when he tries to engage in the dirty tactics of saying, well, what's your belief system? It doesn't matter. I don't have a belief system. What's your, like, what do you think about mass murder? Is that bad? No, I don't have an opinion on it. Because we're not assessing MarquetteDavon Burton's opinion. We're assessing the criteria that Christianity puts against this, but more importantly, how Christians execute on that moral law that they've been given from their creator. Let me acknowledge some of the folks supporting the workshop. To Mr. Buck, he writes, did you learn anything from participating in this debate, Mr. Burton? Absolutely. I learned about David Cooley's nature. I learned about the structure of like YouTube debates, how people run them. I learned that I'd say that's about it. Everything else was expected. I expected him to try to be metaphysical. I expected the audience to be filled with people who are formally uneducated but believe themselves to be geniuses. I expected it to be an audience biased toward those who are religious because the host is religious, the other person debating is religious. So two of three people were religious. So I expect the audience to probably at minimum be 2/3 religious, but probably more because I'm on someone else's platform. So their audience will be higher numbers. I expected there to be no acknowledgement of guilt. There are certain demographics that they never want to acknowledge the heinous things that their demographic has participated in. Meaning, you know, if you identify as a Marxist, well, or a communist, you have to acknowledge that the communists have engaged in unnecessary man-made famines. And most people are not going to want to do that. So I expected those things. But at the end of the day, when you go into something, and I teach this in Boston University, you have to know why you're going in, know the end before the beginning. So the question is, well, Marquette, would you be going in to win a debate? Well, I asked, well, what's the prize? What's the prize, right? Just like Floyd Mayweather. He says, I'm a prize fighter. When people say, you just run, first off, that's not running, that's defense. They don't know because they're not proper pugilists. But the question is, if you win the debate, what's the prize? Do you get money? Like, for example, Cooley said, hey, I got a lot of super chats. Do you want any? And I was like, no, keep the money. Appreciate the consideration. And so I wasn't going in to get money from super chats. If that was the case, then I would have said, yeah, give me some super chats. And so that wasn't it. Going in to win a debate that doesn't give you anything. What I was going in for is exposure. And one thing we know for sure is that if you stay on message with what your message is, then your tribe will hear that message. It'll make sense instantly. People who are pragmatists, people who are practical, people who are honest, straightforward, people who are observers of history, when they hear my message, they're going to say, oh, yeah, no, naturally, that makes sense. There's no way to argue against what he's saying. This is a rational person. This is a good person. This is someone who believes good works need to happen in the real world instead of in the mind. So I went in to get exposure, and I trust that'll happen. Anytime you have conflict and drama, human beings circle around that. And human nature has not changed since I suppose since ever, right? Since the times of the Romans, when they'd have the circuses and the gladiators. So people still like to see that. And so I know that that's going to get me more reach than a positive, well-reasoned discussion. So these are necessary places to show up to forward the message, to forward the ism. Thank you for that question. That's an important question that we always have to ask ourselves with whatever experience we choose to have or would want to have. Shout out to Carter coming, supporting the work. He writes, Peace of the Saints tuition. Now, Marquette, do you know what tuition is? Define it. Okay. Now, what's your source? Please try to answer without using ChatGPT or genetic fallacy. Right, exactly. And the comedy is that during the entire discussion, only one person ever used a source, which was me. Great irony. Shout out to Dev. He writes, tuition. Hopefully Cash App is less fees than Stripe. Absolutely. Yeah. Cash App is 0 fees. Actually, no, not this Cash App. This is not my Cash App. It's not a person's Cash App. So Venmo has no fees, whereas the other ones do. And I appreciate you supporting the work, Dev. Appreciate you. And as you guys may be wondering, Cash App, Zelle, US Bank, all removed me for my political views. Apparently, America is not the land of the free where you can exercise freedom of speech with regards to politics. Shout out to Caleb, comes in by Venmo, writes, Peace of the Saints, Mr. Burton. Thank you for the work you put in. This debate shows why you tend to stay away from these religious arguments. Oh, 100%. Because you can track the entire debate and none of my points were addressed. And that is kind of a sad thing when you're so ashamed of the conduct of those you identify with that you have to sweep it under the rug. Shout out to Luigi. He writes, Peace of the Saints. Thank you for your knowledge. You're very welcome. I thank you for the support. Shout out to Mr. Gilroy. He writes, Peace of the Saints, showing appreciation for the good you do. Thank you, sir. I also acknowledge Marco. He writes, Peace of the Saints via PayPal. Shout out to Melvin. He writes, tuition, Peace of the Saints. Do you think David was disadvantaging you by intention? I don't know. Only he would know. But I would say subconsciously, definitely. Consciously, who knows? But subconsciously, definitely. There's no doubt about it. It was, that was certainly the case. Now, do I think that's majorly relevant to the conversation? Would the conversation have gone much better? Yeah, a little better. But I think that if the moderation would have been more balanced, it would have just caused Jay to become more frustrated and melt down. As you can see, like the devil within him was, that the cage of the demon was being rattled. He was very unpleasant and anxious and angry. And you can observe at the end of the debate, he was extremely angry. And I think that is the expression of someone who, one, is probably not a proper Christian. And then number two, is mad at something, mad at being exposed, mad at losing a debate, mad at something, right? Because I tend to not think that after you win a debate, you'd be happy, right? You'd be in a sunny disposition. And he was clearly very bothered. So I think that says enough. Force for good. And you mentioned your 10 commandments, thou shalt not kill. So, and we find that the mass murder of the Native Americans occurred under Christians.
I have an account for the good that includes the possibility of free will and humans still committing fallacious, evil, vile actions.
Right. And so it's not an argument about free will, and those are not interesting arguments. Again, these are things that have been done many times by people who are far more interesting and sophisticated and accomplished than he and I. And so his attempt to reduce the conversation to free will is pretty strange, especially when this is an argument that you can make in any of the Abrahamic faiths. It's not anything that supports his Christianity or his orthodox Christianity, the particular sect wherein he stands there thinking that he can call other Christians heretics, which is ironic to call Protestants heretics when he was a Protestant. Then he turned into a Roman Catholic. And I think by the fact that he just keeps jumping from sect to sect, we know that he himself probably has some suspicion of a lot of this stuff. So at what point based on what criteria, at what point do we say Christianity is a system for good that's any better than, say, communism or Islam or Satanism?
Yeah, it's my paradigm. It's the 10 Commandments and all the things I listed. Obviously, I'm going to argue for my paradigms.
So now, to me, that's the end of the debate. And that's why I don't debate zealots. He just said, it's my paradigm. I'm going to argue for my paradigm. If that doesn't tell you everything that you need to know about his honesty, his intention to seek the truth, his intention to be objective, he's literally saying, I'm arguing for my team because it's the team that I'm on, not because it's the best team, not because it's the most upright team, but it's the team that I'm on. So I'm arguing for it. And
Perception of the good.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so what I'm asking you is at what point, like where's the breaking point to where we say this stuff doesn't work, we should throw it away because it's in allowing genocide, allowing enslavement, allowing. So I want you guys to hone in on this part. This is really critical. I stated, at what point does one say a system, an ideology does not work, meaning it's having no effect for improving human behavior or human outcomes at a significant level? And you'll notice that he never once defines that. And he theoretically has a criteria. If the 10 Commandments say thou shalt not kill, well, then what percentage of the time are you allowed to kill? Well, it sounds like it's 0%. But let's have some understanding for the fact that human beings. Oh man, I see it. Oh man, that's messed up. Give me one moment. I have to take care of something urgent. I'll be right back. Just give me 2 minutes. Send in your comments, questions, size tuition. Lola. Thank you for your patience. Carrying on. All of these horrible things.
But how do you get logically to the conclusion, maybe you can, that because individuals commit these actions, it's the fault of the religious
Sure.
system?
I didn't say it's... And you'll notice that he keeps lying. He keeps on claiming that it's individuals when I've said several times they modify the theology. Used the Dutch Reformed Church as an example. I used the Bible, the modified Bible that they gave to the enslaved folks in the Caribbean. So that's modifying the theology. I said they use the structures of the church. They use the missionaries. I said that the Pope sanctioned holding people in slavery under Portugal. I stated that the Orthodox Church owned slaves itself. So those are not individuals. Those are that's the actual machinery of Christianity, of the church being utilized for wicked ends. The fault of the religion. I'm saying that while they are Christians and also leveraging Christian systems, the Christian church, Christian theology, Christian missionaries, while all of those things exist, they're still engaging in mass murder. So I'm saying, at what point do we decide that Christianity maybe is not a good thing or no better than communism, socialism, atheism?
You would have to demonstrate.
So I'm asking you, what would the criteria be? Because you mentioned that thou shalt not kill. And I said, well, thou has killed millions of people. So at what point is it too many to where someone like you would say that we should throw this away?
It's a fallacious line of argumentation.
No, I'm not arguing. I'm asking you a question. At what point would you say we should throw this away?
You know what a genetic fallacy is?
I do. But I'm asking you,
what is it?
At what point do we say we should?
And you'll notice that certain demographics are exceedingly dishonest. This is the same tactic. It's a tactic. There's nothing sincere about this. This is the same thing that Destiny does. Oh, well, do you know what this is? Well, what is it? What is it? It's like, okay, now we're talking about that. We're not talking about the actual topic. And for someone who actually allegedly believes in the goodness of Christianity to not be able to defend it, but to run at every chance to try and talk about something else is utterly bizarre. It's just madness. And then at this point, there's no moderation. At the point in which he's asking me to define things that are unrelated to the actual topic, it's meaningful to define terms that we have to agree on to have the debate. We have to agree on what is a Christian to debate about Christianity. It's necessary. It is not necessary that we go through and define what a genetic fallacy is, what a non sequitur is, what a, fill in the blank with 1,000 different like 1,000 different logical fallacies. There's no utility there. It's an actual waste of time. What could make sense is that if he said, well, that's a genetic fallacy, let me explain exactly how, which of course he doesn't do because it's not a genetic fallacy. And that's the problem. And that's where your moderator comes in and says, well, this is immaterial. This is a red herring, in fact, which is a logical fallacy. Shout out to Chunkster. He writes, I found it strange when Cooley put a poll in the chat on who won the debate when the majority of the audience are religious zealots. Peace of the saints. I didn't even know what they were talking about initially when they said poll. And then when he said about who won, I was like, yeah, what do I care? If that's what you do that. If that's how this usually goes, like, why are you asking me? Just put the poll up. What does it matter? To throw this away.
What is it?
Do you notice you keep on bogging down and like, what's the definition of this?
For the last
what's your
minutes.
source on this? So I'm asking you, at what point do we throw Christianity away? With millions, hundreds of millions of people killed or enslaved.
It's a fallacious
Global
line
genocide.
of reasoning because it's a genetic fallacy. So can you tell me what that is?
So you're saying that there's no time in which we should throw away Christianity, like no matter what Christians do?
What I'm trying to tell you is that if you want to debate this, and you could be a much better debater if you would listen to the line of.
So the funny thing, and again, that's where moderator comes in. This is not your job as a debater to talk about this thing unrelated to the actual topic. And the irony is that while I attempt to talk about the topic, he doesn't want to talk about it. Then later claims that I don't want to talk about the topic. It's just utterly bizarre.
of argumentation.
No,
It would
so
make you better.
what I'm telling you is
trying to
that
help
you
you,
keep
dude.
running. You can't establish the goodness of Christianity. All you can do is run back to your book that is customizable and
Well, I mean, I
fictional.
listed good.
So all you can do is run back to the book.
Multiple
But what you're not
examples.
able to do is explain how your religion is a force for good that prevents Christians from behaving so poorly. The funny thing too is I asked him a most reasonable question, which is to say, at what point do we know Christianity fails as a system? And you can ask this about any system. At what point do we know socialism fails, capitalism fails, or fill in the blank? For example, if you said, Marquette, at what point do we know if communism fails? I could say, well, you'll know that it fails when there's a revolution. Or you might say, Marquette, at what point do we know that capitalism has failed? I'll say, okay, well, capitalism has failed when the middle class does not represent at least 50% of the population. You can put a specific metric on it. There's some kind of way to measure if a system is failing. But what you cannot do is say, oh, well, even if capitalism has caused everyone in a given country to be below the poverty line and only 1% of the people have 99% of the wealth, well, it's fine because, the 99% of people who are below the poverty line, well, they just don't know how. They're just not true capitalists. They're not true capitalists. They don't know how to be proper capitalists, or they have free will. And so they're just, doing the wrong thing, exercising free will. It's a suggestion that the system, the ideology, has no impact, but you're shielding the ideology from criticism and assessment by using these lies, essentially. Supporting is the idea that Christianity probably has acted as the organizing force for the evil. Like Christians aren't any better than anyone else in the society.
There's nothing about the good in the Christian belief or system, as I would give an account for it, that necessitates that it will bring about perfection, utopia, or remove human free will short of the eschaton.
Well, that's a slippery slope. We're not asking for perfection. We're just trying to avoid genocide. Now, I want you guys to notice the truly dishonest nature. Check this out. This is very important. And again, this is also a logical fallacy. I want you guys to tell me which one it is. Listen to what he's saying. I'm asking, why is it that your system has catastrophic failings on a consistent basis across all of the denominations? Marquette, what's a catastrophic failing? Well, if it's a moral system for goodness, committing mass murder against Native Americans, that's a catastrophic failing. If it's a system for goodness, the church owning slaves directly, that's a catastrophic failing. If it's a system for goodness, colonizing the African continent, that's a catastrophic failing in terms of exercising goodness and morality, right? So notice how he responds. So I'm saying, at what point do we find that there's too many failings? At what point do we say too many people have died at the hands of Christians or been enslaved at the hands of Christians? So maybe this moral system is not causing enough morality to take place. I'm not saying that every single Christian needs to behave perfectly. I'm not saying that we need a utopia. That would be extreme. That would be an exaggeration. That would be hyperbole. So listen to what he says and tell me which logical fallacy it is.
For system,
supporting is the idea that Christianity probably has acted as the organizing force for the evil. Like Christians aren't any better than anyone else in the society.
There's nothing about the good in the Christian belief or system, as I would give an account for it, that necessitates that it will bring about perfection, utopia, or remove human free will short of the eschaton.
Well, that's a slippery slope. We're not asking for perfection. We're just trying to avoid genocide. So
now you've moved the goalpost because you said murder.
So I'm asking, can we have Christianity get Christians to not do colonization, enslavement, war, all of these bad things? I'm saying, how do we get it to at least stop them from doing these hugely bad things in an organized fashion at scale? Then he says, well, Christianity is not going to create a utopia and make everyone perfect. Now, there's an enormous gap between utopia, perfect peace and harmony, and then, mass murder. And I'm saying, let's just stop this. And he's saying, well, you can't create a utopia. I'm not asking for a utopia. So there we see that he's clearly misrepresenting the position, and it's intentional, trying to avoid genocide. So
now you've moved the goalpost
you
because you said murder.
Can you
now
explain?
You said genocide. So you moved.
No,
the
I
goalpost.
already said genocide many times because we referenced the Native Americans. Again, you're lying. So what I'm asking,
I'm not lying. You just keep
lying. And notice this again. He lies blatantly. Listen to this. I'm not asking for perfection. We're just trying to avoid genocide. So
now you've moved the goalpost
because you said
murder.
Can you
now
explain?
You said genocide. So
you see, he's lying. He said you moved the goalpost because you said murder. No, maybe mass murder, which is genocide, ethnic cleansing, but I'm not talking about an individual murdering another individual. I hadn't given a single reference to that because it's irrelevant. It has no meaning. I've only given reference to the organized, scaled murder, which would be mass murder, ethnic cleansing, genocide. That's what I referenced several times. And so now he starts lying. It is a blatant lie. Not one time did I give reference in individual murder. Listen.
The eschaton.
Well, that's a slippery slope. We're not asking for perfection. We're just trying to avoid genocide. So
now you've moved the goalpost
because you said murder. Can you
now
explain?
You said genocide. So you moved.
No, I already said genocide many times because we referenced the Native Americans. Again, you're lying. So what I'm asking,
I'm not lying. You just keep you are lying. Bailey, where you know what a Hot Bailey fallacy is.
So what I'm asking you is this: at what point do we figure out if this system is worth holding on to? It does not appear to be outperforming other systems.
Okay, based on what metric?
Now that's a funny thing. So he's basically conceding that he has no way to assess his own system. He has no way to assess his own ideology, which is a suggestion that he's just following it because it's what he believes in. It's what he has faith in, which is fine. But you have to admit that he's conceding he has no way to measure if it's good or not, but he says it's good.
The performance is going to be based on some metric.
Literally asking you that. I'm literally
I've been answering your questions,
you
and I gave you a list of goods that Christianity gave in my opening
so
statement.
What you did when I said, well, at what point you said, well, it's not supposed to create a utopia. Well, yeah, no one said that. No one suggested that. That's quite extreme. But what I am saying, one moment, what I am saying is that we would expect that if a Christian nation is in fact Christian, then we would not observe slavery. We would not observe genocide. We would not observe colonization.
It's a fallacy.
And
it doesn't follow from that. Okay. It doesn't logically follow that because
one moment, you don't have to interrupt me.
That they will necessarily follow.
You don't have to interrupt me. So what I'm at, and that's the whole point is he is actually arguing on an individual basis, whereas I'm arguing against the ideology. So for example, or rather I should say against Christianity itself. So he says, because you have a belief system, that doesn't mean that everyone, individuals, will all follow it. We agree there. But there's a major difference between, say, individuals committing a murder versus mass murder, which requires organization. It requires intelligence services. It requires armies. It requires government. It requires coordination and agreement among the group. You see, for example, when the Native Americans were being exterminated, when you had the Trail of Tears, you did not have any significant Christian organization saying, this is ridiculous. This is anti-Christian. This is against what Jesus would want. We're going to stand up and fight against you guys who are doing this. You didn't have that. So there was either direct or indirect consent. That's my point. His point is that, well, individuals may do bad things, and we agree there. Yes, an individual may commit murder, but the Christian church organizing to commit murder is yet another thing. It's a different phenomena.
It doesn't follow. You keep asking
one
questions
moment.
That are fallacious.
Calm down. What I'm asking you, and you don't have to say it's a fallacy because I'm not arguing. I'm asking you a question.
You can have a fallacious
question. What I'm asking you is, at what point do we say that this? Now, notice I've asked him the same question. He's not answered one time. He's only run. Moderator has not asked him to answer the question once. You'll notice the moderator came in 3 times to ask me to answer the question, but he never once said, hey, he didn't get an answer from you. Would you mind actually answering the question? Shout out to Chunkster. He writes, I found it strange. Okay, I think I addressed that one. Shout out to Mr. Buck. He writes, he is extraordinarily deceptive. His fans also suffer from the Dunning-Kruger effect. At an unreal level. Shout out to FBA writes, how are they Christians when they do not follow the teachings of Christ? That's a reasonable question. The teachings of Christ speak against every atrocity committed in the name of Christianity that the saint brought up. 100%. 100%. And that is increasingly why I'm scared of human nature. And I understand that what people are calling religion is just, they're all cults. These are all cults. System is not producing overall good because we find that a significant number of Christians organize around, and you'll notice that's the important part. They organize to do this wickedness. They organize. And just to give you a comparative basis for those who are struggling, and I don't think anyone's struggling to understand this. I think it's just the zealots who are dishonest. If you were a Miami Dolphins player and you go out and you get into a fist fight, well, then you will probably go to jail as an individual, and no one will, cause any issues to the franchise, which is to say the company, the group. Conversely, if the Miami Dolphins team was out at a restaurant, and I'm talking about the whole team. So say you got 40 people out at a restaurant, all Miami Dolphins players, and then 8 of them get into a fist fight, the Miami Dolphins team will be blamed. The team will suffer consequences. The team will be culpable, even if it wasn't the whole team. If it was a group within the team that's all a part of the team, a significant number of persons identifying as Miami Dolphins players, and they organize together to engage in this negative action, then the team will be held responsible, rightly so. I think we can all agree on that. That is the case societally and legally in the United States. There's no doubt that whoever got beat up by 8 Miami Dolphins players while 40 of the team members are out together, would they try to sue the Dolphins? You better believe they would. And in many cases, they would win.
But I need to know the metric, because you're saying that it's not producing this overall good. What's the metric that we would determine when it does and doesn't?
That's what I'm asking you, sir. And this is the second time we went through this whole loop, wherein he's trying his best to not defend Christianity. He keeps trying to flip the question on me. It's like, buddy, we're discussing Christianity. You're the Christian, and you're supposed to defend your position. And so instead, he keeps trying to give me the question because he, frankly, has no answer. That's what I'm asking.
I come from a Christian paradigm, so I think Christianity has helped many nations. So what's the metric that you're saying it's failed? What's the metric?
Okay, now this is the bizarre part. He's suggesting that I'm suggesting it's failed. He's saying that he thinks it's done many great things. Mind you, he's not named them. And the bizarre thing is I've already referenced things that are regarded as atrocities, several of them. So it wouldn't make sense that he could ask me, well, what do I think is the evidence of it failing? That's been the whole conversation. I've named the eradication of the Native American, the colonization of the African, the enslavement of the African, also the colonization of the Asians as well. Don't forget about them, throughout Latin America. And also the wars that have gone on in Europe. Europe has had a number of wars. Europe has been a warring continent. People don't know the history of that. And not only do you know about the Crusades as a religious wars, but there have been religious wars within Europe, Christian versus Christian, the different denominations. And so what I'm saying is that these are expressions of something being wrong. And I gave the specific examples of churches should not own slaves. It's fundamental. But he could not concede that. I also gave the example of if the Bible is divine, of God, man should not edit it in general. So there shouldn't be versions. But what's worse, because those are not malicious, the versions, I don't think anyone was necessarily malicious in the modern era creating the versions. However, what they call the Slave Bible, which I want to say was published around 1807, something like that. That was maliciously created to mislead people away from the true word of God. I couldn't think of anything more sinful or heinous than trying to edit that which God has authored, and that I referenced as well. So he's already heard many historical, verifiable examples, and he's not engaged any of them. So that tells you pretty much everything that you need to know. And you'll also observe that the acolytes, the zealots, when they claim, so-and-so won, you'll never hear them say this person won because of this. This was the argumentative point. This was the point that was made. This was the failing to respond. They never do that. And that makes perfect sense because they're not going based on logic. They're going based on emotion and dedication to their religion, their faith. I'm asking you.
So you're not going to answer any questions.
I'm asking you. You're trying to flip the question. I've been asking you for 5 minutes. You're trying to flip the question onto me, but I've been asking you, when do we figure out if we throw this away?
And my answer is
how many, at what level do the commandments have to be violated?
It's a fallacious line of questioning based on a metric that I don't know what it is. So you want me to answer based on this metric that you have that it's failed to meet what metric?
For me, definitely genocide is a failure.
Okay,
for Christianity, definitely mass enslavement is a failure. Colonization of other countries and peoples is a failure.
Could any
if you look at the Catholics, the amount of sexual abuse of minors, that's a huge failure in there. Now, mind you, here's the funny thing. You'll notice the difference is even when he asked me to repeat things I've said already, even when he asked me to clarify things that are clear, I'm giving a very well-reasoned or evidence-based explanation. But take note on if there is a legitimate reply and acknowledgement. Commandments have to be violated.
It's a fallacious line of questioning based on a metric that I don't know what it is. So you want me to answer based on this metric that you have that it's failed to meet what metric?
For me, definitely genocide is a failure. For Christianity, definitely mass enslavement is a failure. Colonization of other countries and peoples is a failure.
Could any
if you look at the Catholics, the amount of sexual abuse of minors, that's a huge failure in there. These are often systemic.
All right, so this guy doesn't want to have a discussion.
Okay, good. No, go ahead.
But any ethical discussion, or excuse me, any ethical system, whether it's communism, whether it's a cult or whatever, is it not possible for the people in those groups to violate the principles of that group?
That's actually not what we're talking about.
I'm asking you a question. What is
you see what I'm saying? He's going back to the same thing. He's asking, is it possible for an individual Christian to violate the ethics of Christianity, the Bible, the scripture? Yeah, duh. But that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about individuals violating. We're talking about using the structures of the church to organize the church to engage in things that are despicable. And so he consistently refuses to engage the crux of the argument and tries to discuss something different that's easier for him to win. So he wants to win a debate, but not even the debate on the actual topic.
Okay, no, real quick, let me see if I can create some decorum, because now I'm having a little bit a hard time to understand exactly what's going on. So Marquette, could you state the question with an example besides Christianity and the things that
and this is when we found out that the moderation
so he can understand?
I want you guys to pay attention. Well, I think this right here is when we found out that the moderation was absolute shit. Full stop. Pay attention to this part right here. This is when we realized that the moderation was not moderation. It was a 2-on-1. Listen to what Cooley interrupts that says we need to establish decorum. Listen to what Cooley says. Listen to my response, and then listen to how he and his colleague respond to my response. Pay attention.
State the question with an example besides Christianity.
Okay, so he said, Marquette, restate your question and use an example that's not Christianity. Now, mind you, we're talking about Christianity. We should be able to use Christianity as an example. We're actually talking about it. But he jumps in on behalf of Jay and says, do this specific thing. Give an example that is not Christianity. Okay? Now, mind you, Also, think back. We're over an hour into the debate. At this point, we're 1 hour, 24 seconds into the debate. Has he ever one time said, hey, Jay, you're incorrect there. Would you clarify this? Would you answer this question? Would you give another analogy? Would you double down on something? He's never once done that, even though Jay's done nothing but run. He's not answered anything. If you take the data on who's actually answered questions, it's overwhelmingly me. If you take the data on who's given the most sources and citations, it was overwhelmingly me. So notice, moderator comes in and says, Marquette, give an example that does not use Christianity. Listen to this and tell me what you think.
A hard time to understand exactly what's going on. So, Marquette, could you state the question with an example besides Christianity and the things that people do in Christianity, maybe so he can understand to answer your question?
Well, I think he does understand. Now, again, he said so he can understand. He does understand. These people are deceitful. The idea that he doesn't understand is bizarre. He understands perfectly well. Understand. And as I said, being a religious person, it necessitates that you have to lie because you have to protect your religion. Even if you look at the data, there's a negative correlation that's statistically significant that atheists have 6 IQ points higher than religious people.
Okay, and what's the source for that?
And I'm not saying you're an idiot. I'm just saying that maybe you learn religion I'm saying that you learn religion maybe very early in life.
For that? Why?
And now you're hanging on to it because I know that you've changed.
What's the source?
You've changed from Protestant to you were a Calvinist. You were
so now he's
Roman Catholic, and now you're an Orthodox. So you find a way to hang on to it because if you were to say, hey, religion is
psychological
false,
report, it's
if
irrelevant
you say religion is false, what you would have to do
psychological
roll away
there's no point
40 years worth of
okay. Let's create some decorum. Let's create some decorum real quick. So real quick.
The source for atheists of the hierarchy.
So what you'd have to do is throw away 40 years of belief. I get that. Now, let me answer your question, Cooley. 1 second. Don't interrupt. Let me answer your question, Cooley. So listen, I said, let me answer your question coolly. The moderator, he asked me a question. Okay, I'm going to answer it. We use a different religion. If we were using Islam, and I said that you all engaged in the trans-Saharan slave trade for 1,300 years. And these were Muslims engaging the slave trade. And this slave trade occurred in Muslim lands. And
this guy just wants to talk. This is not where's the argument?
Marquette, could you just restate the question?
No, you just asked me to give an example. Cool.
No, I do want that.
Religion, right?
Yeah. The example of a different religion. So for an example,
so you just asked me that. So I was giving you the example of Islam and
great. That's good.
You asked me that, right?
Yes. Yeah, sure. You're good.
So I was responding to what you said, right?
Yes. You're laying your plane. Yep. You're good.
Great. So that would be the example. I'd say, well, how do you justify Islam being a force for good where you've done this horror for 1,300 years and it was done by Muslims and it was organized and they used the institutions of Islam?
So if atheists have a higher IQ, then collectively I can ask the same argument to illustrate why it's a fallacy that if atheists committed genocide in the Soviet Union and killed 20 million Orthodox Christians, or if the Chinese killed 60 million people, those are genocides. So therefore, atheism is not a just viable system by this line of argumentation. That's
atheism is not a system of ideas. For example, you use the situation of the Russians. You're talking about the Soviets, right? The communists. And and here's a funny thing too. He even starts talking about things he clearly does not know well. And that's the nature of this kind of guy, is that he's not going to ever admit to being wrong. He's not going to concede ground. He's going to lie. He's going to use dirty tactics. Once you pin him down, he's going to try to shift. Communists were anti-religious, and so it made sense that they were basically trying to eradicate this from their society. Yes, Wait, did you hear what he said? Listen closely. Listen closely to what he said. No, you use the situation of the Russian. Pay attention.
Then collectively, I can ask the same argument to illustrate why it's a fallacy that if atheists committed genocide in the Soviet Union and killed.
So he said if atheists committed genocide in the Soviet Union, atheists, right? Atheists committed genocide in the Soviet Union. Now, mind you, atheists are not a group. There's no atheist gathering place. They don't get together to do activities Atheist is not a group. It's an individual lack of belief, if you like.
20 million Orthodox Christians, or if the Chinese can kill.
And that was also a lie. I should have called that one out too. That's completely false.
60 million people. Those are genocides. So therefore, atheism is not a just viable system by this line.
And that's crazy. He claimed atheism is a system. No one has ever said that atheism is a system. Atheism is mostly the idea that your system is ludicrous. But atheism unto itself is not a system. There's no gathering. There's no church-like situation. They don't organize to do activities. It's just ludicrous.
Line of argumentation. That's
no, atheism is not a system of ideas. For example, you use the situation of the Russians. You're talking. And can someone remind me to have my my executive assistant clip this up, get this clipped up? Yeah, let me write that one down because this is ludicrous. Bro lying his ass off. So that was 1 hour, 3 minutes. Atheism is a system. Like, this is utterly ludicrous. Talking about the Soviets, right? The communists. And so communists were anti-religious. And so it made sense that they were basically trying to eradicate this from their. Okay, you just heard you heard himself. He stated, pay attention, we're gonna bust him lying. He stated they are atheists. So he was talking about atheists. And then I said, no, what you're really talking about, if you're talking about a group taking group actions, that was communism. They were organized together based on being communists. And communists are necessarily atheists. That is in their belief system. It's core to their belief system. And then you heard him in the background said, they are atheists. Notice he's going to be contradicting himself shortly, lying. Society. Yes, communists are necessarily atheists. Correct.
Well, actually, they're.
And then he just said correct. And then look at him, because I guess if I'm saying it, then he has to disagree. So notice he says it first, then I double down on it, and then he disagrees with himself. Listen, this is insane. We're anti-religious, and so it made sense that they were basically trying to eradicate this from their society. Yes, communists are necessarily atheists. Correct.
Well, actually, they're not, but there's plenty of communists.
No, actually, they are.
No, there are plenty of communists who are not atheists. That's not true.
Communists are necessarily atheists.
No, they're not.
Have you read Das Kapital?
I have, actually. I had grad classes on it.
Very good. And you would know that the communists of Russia are necessarily atheists. And what's the source? Dr. A. James Greger. But again, this is not the actual topic. The topic is and now he's asking, are there Christian socialists? Well, hang on. Socialists and communists are different. So we see consistently the dishonesty, because we're not talking about socialists, we're talking about communists now. And I said communists are necessarily atheists, and you can observe this in their actual behavior. The USSR is a great example. And I said, well, what's my source? Dr. A. James Greger. Mind you, again, me giving sources, he's given none. And then he goes from, well, are socialists Christians? Well, socialists and communists are different. Communist, communism. Socialist, socialism. These are different phenomena. Well, Marquette, substantiate that. I'd be happy to. You had the National Socialists, also known as the Nationalsozialistisches Deutsches Arbeiterpartei in Germany. And they hated the communists, which were in Russia, and also in Germany, whom they fought against. So how is he claiming that they're the same thing? And even if simply based on the fact that they have two different names, it might be obvious that there are differences. So we find that he's just fundamentally dishonest. Is Christianity a force?
Are there Christian socialists?
Failed to establish that.
Are there Christian socialists? Are there Christian socialists?
Yeah. Now he's lost the point on communism, and now he's going on to are there Christian socialists? It's unrelated to the thing about communists being atheists. That's number one. And we were talking about that as an analogy. So let's not get too deep into the analogy. Let's actually stay on topic, because he's now engaging something that is peripheral to something that was itself peripheral to the argument. I'll give you an example.
So then they're not all necessarily atheists.
So I'll give you an example.
You're fundamentally uneducated.
I'll give you an example. The
I don't
Christians.
need you to filibuster.
I'll give you an example.
You said atheists are that Marxists are only atheists.
I didn't say. Now he's lying again. So now he's saying you said that Marxists. Hang on, I never said Marxists. This is the consistent deceit of this guy. You never once heard me mischaracterize his position because I'm honest and I'm arguing based on what he's saying, because what he's saying is ludicrous. I don't need to make it seem ludicrous. Now he's gone from, pay attention, communists, then he starts bringing up socialists. Now he's brought up a third group, Marxists. These are all three different groups. And he's not sophisticated enough to know the differences. So he's pretending as though they're all the same. And clearly they have different names and they end in ist, which would suggest that at some level they maybe have valuably or meaningfully different identities. Marxists, now you're lying. I said communists. See, so now you're lying. You're lying now. No one said Marxists. You're lying now. You got to stop that. You
cited Das Kapital, dude.
You said Marxists.
You said Das Kapital.
So now you're lying. I said communists, and we both know that.
Are there communists that believe in God?
And you'll notice he never admits the lying. This guy is filthy. He never admits the lying. Once he gets busted lying, then he just goes on to the next lie. He goes on to a new lie, a new line of escape. Never says, "Oh, you're right, you got me. I lied," or "I apologize for misrepresenting," or "You're right, you didn't say that." You're not supposed to be a religious. I said Marxist.
You said Das Kapital.
So now you're lying. I said communists, and we both know that.
Are there communists that believe in God?
You're not supposed to be a religious communist. Communism is anti-religious.
That's not the question. But do they exist? You said they don't.
Again. Stay on the topic. Stay on the topic. The topic is Christianity a force for good?
I'm going to call it out. Is
Christianity a force for good? You don't believe. Now here's the irony. Do you guys have a good memory? He keeps saying, "Are there communists who believe in God?" You yourself just heard him earlier state, quote, "Communists are atheists." He said that. He said communists are atheists. Now he's like, are there communists who believe in God? Yes. And what he's attempting to do is the exact logical fallacy that he accused me of earlier, claiming that I'm focusing too acutely on the individual, attempting to assign the traits, sins, follies of the individual to the group. So what he's suggesting is that because there could be one or two individuals who claim that they are both communist and religious, then communists don't have to be religious, when everyone who is minimally informed knows that not only are communists atheists, they're proactive. They're proactive in countering the presence of religion, which they consider to be the opiate of the masses, and a competitive ideology to communism, which does not allow competitive ideologies. That's a checkmate right there. That's checkmate. You can justify that.
In Moscow.
So you would like to talk about everything else. Just imagine someone coming to a debate and trying to talk about the topic, and you're engaging a red herring. And again, this is a good time for moderation. He's just babbling back and forth. I'm literally saying, I want to talk about the topic. The moderator's sleeping. He's on standby. He's not saying, "Oh, you're right. Let's get back on the topic."
You just say, "You know what? You're right about that."
All right, fellas, let's try to create some decorum to get both of you to answer one another questions.
So if you're going to say stuff that's ridiculous, I have to call it out because it's a fallacious line of argumentation.
No, you're just trying to avoid the fact that Christians have done horrors on the planet Earth, and you cannot justify it as a force for good. It is no better than any other system of ideas. There's no evidence.
Let me ask you what the good is in your system.
I haven't defined any system. I asked you what the good should be in Christianity.
How do we define Christianity?
What's the criteria against
according to you? What's your kind of the good?
Real quick for you, Jay. No, it's okay. He probably didn't hear you. So when you guys both speak at the same time, Marquette, the way his audio is set up, it kind of pushes your audio down a little bit. So if you can just restate that question.
So I've argued for Christianity for the whole time. I've given a bunch.
No, you've not argued for Christianity at all, actually. You've only tried to avoid and use dirty tactics. That's it.
Bunch of in my opening statement, for example, transcendental argument. He can disagree with all that. Fine.
Sure.
I want to know now what his account of the good is in his worldview.
Now, that point, the moderator should have said, that has nothing to do with the conversation. Let's say my worldview is communism. My worldview is Judaism. My worldview is Catholicism. It doesn't matter, because I'm here interrogating your worldview, because your worldview is the actual debate topic. So you're here to defend that. So again, we see him knowing that he cannot defend it. It's indefensible if you're using the truth. He's now saying, well, I want to know about his worldview. Why? It doesn't matter if I believe in the Easter bunny. It's irrelevant, because the actual topic is Christianity good. That's the topic. So that point, the moderator should have said, no, that's off topic. That's irrelevant. So you're a very metaphysical guy. That's fantastic. What I'm telling you is that the actions of Christians as an organization have been consistently.
What is your
wicked.
account of the good?
And we're not here to discuss my account of the good.
No, we are, because it's in the
We're
prompt.
not.
It's
We're
in the
here to
prompt.
establish that Christianity is a force for good. And
So I
you
wanna
being
know
the
your
Christian,
account of
I
the
asked you to
So
define
On what?
at
and I
what
said
point
it's
have
not
they
in the
failed
Ten
to
Commandments.
meet the minimum requirements
I
of good
said
as
it's
a
not in the
collective.
Ten Commandments. You could disagree
Like,
with that. Now I want to
as
ask, what is
Christians.
your account of the good?
So again, you're trying to get into abstraction and definition.
No, it's in
We're
the
arguing
prompt.
about Christianity being
You
a
don't
force
have to
for
define
good.
the good.
I'm not the Christian. I'm not the
I
Christian.
know. So I
You
wanna
tried to
know what
define
your
on an
account is.
individual basis your 10
You're holding
commandments,
me
and
to
then
an
I said,
account- you're holding
does
me
that
to a
apply to the
measurement of
whole?
good. You're saying it's wrong to commit genocide. On what basis?
Yeah, it is
On
wrong.
what basis? I agree it's wrong, but I have a basis. What's your basis?
now,
I
again,
think
this
it's a
is
silly
Cooley should have stopped that right
conversation.
there,
I
because
don't
it
care
doesn't
whether
make
you think
sense.
it's silly or not. What's the
So Cooley should have stopped that, because he says, you're saying that mass murder is wrong, but on what basis? Now, this is the kind of conversation for these people who think that they're super deep and they want to use their time for this kind of discussion. My time is too valuable to discuss why is mass murder wrong. My time is far too valuable for that. I respect that if you like to use your time for that, but I can't be a part of that. And more importantly, it's not germane to the topic, because my belief system is not under the microscope. Yours is. The debate is about Christianity. And again, this would have been the time where the moderator said, well, it doesn't matter what his moral compass is or his moral system, because we're interrogating yours. Like, if the prompt said, is Marquettism a force for good? And he says, well, what is your moral system? Then I would be on the hook to justify it. I'd be on the hook to say, well, my moral system is based on 3 Sins Bible, which everyone who follows me has read. Everyone who follows Christianity certainly has not read the Bible, nor have they understood it, those who claim to have read it. Be yourself, be good to yourself, be good to good people. So if you say mass murder, I would suggest that probably mass murder has to be in contradiction to Marquettism, because it's improbable that you would be able to execute such a thing upon only bad people because of the scale. So yes, that would be in contradiction to my moral system. And that's a clear, concise answer. But I'm not responsible for giving that answer. You are, because you're here as a representative and apologist of Christianity.
The argument for why it's bad?
You're asking me why genocide is.
What is your
why
ethical
genocide is
argument
bad?
for why it's wrong?
Carry on, please.
So he's not gonna
So he's asking for my ethical argument of why mass murder is wrong. And it's like, it saddens me that people actually give this kind of imbecility time. Is that a question? I think it's a good question if you're a demon and maybe you're trying to persuade, and easily influence people out of what should be obvious.
So the debate's over. You
Okay.
conceded the debate. You don't have a justification for the
No, you cannot. And there you go with the dishonesty. He says you conceded the debate because you're not justifying your system. The debate's not about my system. And again, that's when the moderator would say, well, Jay, we're discussing Christianity. Marquette is not the defender of Christianity. You are. So you'd have to provide the details on your ethical explanation of it. But frankly, Marquette hasn't been discussing ethics. He's been discussing deeds. Anyways, shout out to Mr. Nias, he writes, atheism is not a system of ideas. It is simply the absence of belief in gods or the rejection of the claim that deities exist. Blatant lie, 100%. And he was consistently lying. And the fact that people are able to claim that he did well, it just shows you that you'll always have Adrian Broners. You always have an Adrian Bronner. Bro gets in the ring, gets boop, boop, beep, 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 beat up, and then you ask him who won. He has a black eye claiming that he's the greatest. It gets like that. Not speak to the facts and the historical happenings, and in the absence of being able to justify, in the absence of being able to justify what has occurred on this earth,
what is your justification?
You retreat to what is in your head,
fellas.
When you step into reality, your ideas,
none of this,
fellas, allow one another to like land their plane so the audience can hear. So again, Marquette, to be honest, your microphone does supersede his a little bit. So when you're speaking and he's speaking, trust me, his microphone is going down and they can hear you, but they can't really hear him that good. So we kind of need the back and forth to go properly. Jay Dyer, just restate the position again.
Yeah.
Or the question.
It's in the prompt of the debate that the good is in question, and is Christianity good? I gave multiple arguments as to why I think that is the case. It's only fair in the last couple minutes that I also asked, because he's critiquing Christianity on the basis of some secular good, it appears. I want to know what his account of the good is. Fair question.
That wasn't the question. You just asked me, why is genocide bad?
On
so,
what basis?
Gotti, now you're asking what is good?
What is the good that you're using to measure that Christianity is not good? What is it?
So I'll restate it again.
So
you can keep re-asking the question. It's just a debate tactic. Everyone can tell you.
It's not. You're using the good and an ethic. So what is your ethic?
I'm pointing out to you that Christianity is no better a system than any other system.
Why is it bad?
And that is because the fact of the Native American genocide, the transatlantic enslavement,
give an account.
Monasteries themselves, including.
No, he doesn't. He's just telling.
Now, you know, you've really reached a moral low. You've reached an extraordinary level of bankruptcy when you're saying, okay, Marquette, if your evidence of Christianity underperforming as a moral system references genocide, then first explain why genocide is bad. And then we'll get onto the argument. It's like, bruh, word. Is this where we're at with it? Is this where we're at with it? Like, please stop it. Let me acknowledge some of the folks supporting the work. Shout out to Nias. He writes, peace to the saints. Just emailed you a debate analysis. Thought you might find the fallacy audit especially useful. Now, this is really interesting. So he sent over a fallacy audit document. I tried to look through it a little bit just now. It looks like it's 39 pages, but I want to take a look at it because it will give us an objective perspective and allow us to, see what's what. So we might have to make a whole clip of just this actual analysis. I think this is really fascinating stuff. So let's go ahead and dig in if you guys have the patience to. So let's take a look at this. This looks like a really important document. So let's see what we got here. There we go. Okay. So this looks like a document generated based on the debate. It's 39 pages, so it's very thorough. You'll have to forgive me. I've never seen this document before. So if I have any failings in navigating the document or breaking it down for you, just know that I'm doing it on the fly. So let's go ahead and get into this. This seems really interesting. This should probably be done for all debates, right? Get a little bit of objectivity. Debate transcript and audit critical review. So this was based on the transcript, just the facts. Is Christianity true and good for all people? This is between myself and Dyer. Critical analysis of argumentation, fallacies, factual claims, and Cooley's moderation. Very good. Good. Threw that in there. Okay, so this was the video that was considered. All right. And executive assessment. So it says 24 high confidence fallacy episodes from Jay. So it's saying Jay was busted for using fallacies 24 times, according to this objective analysis. It says that Marquette was busted 11 times. That is literally him using fallacies twice as much as I was. Now, here's the reason that that's particularly interesting. That should be really interesting to you because I actually answered questions. So I gave more elaboration, and still he spoke more than twice as many fallacies. Now we have this objective analysis that really is strange that he got away with that if we had a moderator. Very interesting. And I appreciate that we can get some objectivity here. And it says 37 out of 10 for moderation score. That is definitely a fail. If that was a letter grade, that would be a very low F. Bottom line, the transcript supports a poor moderation assessment, particularly on neutrality. It seems like people were right. Scope clarity, relevance control, and consistent evidentiary standards. I think I was the only one giving evidence. Cooley did several procedural things well, especially timekeeping and repeatedly asking the men to restate questions, but his most consequential interventions were often late, asymmetric, and substantively argumentative. Ooh, yeah. Oh, man, this is interesting stuff. On the motion itself, let me make sure that I enlarge this so that you guys can see this. Okay, great. Looks like we're enlarged. Yeah, this is good. Shout out to Niat. Man, shout out. This is hugely valuable. On the motion itself, Jay took the affirmative on a conjunctive proposition. Marquette's decision to concentrate on the good for all people half was logically sufficient to contest the full motion. Agree. And this is obviously, I'm assuming this may be AI generated at some level. And this is good AI, because I think a lot of human beings fail to catch what I was pointing out with that. More importantly, the affirmative carried the initial burden to explain what good for all people meant and to establish that universal claim. So he's saying that Jay had to do that. Jay was entitled to test Marquette's moral reasoning, but once both men stipulated that genocide is wrong, Marquette did not need to derive that shared premise from a complete meta-ethical system before using it as a counterexample. Excellent. And let me see if I can enlarge this, because this is quite far away from me. There we go. Excellent. Turning the debate into justify why genocide is wrong shifted away from whether Jay had actually established the affirmative goodness claim. Oh, man, it's so nice to be able to get some objectivity. It's so nice to get some objectivity. Now the dweebs can realize that they're dweebs. Now they can realize that the Dunning-Kruger effect was in full effect. It's ironic because I was just pointing this out, and you can see that I had enough dignity and intelligence to not answer that because it was blatantly stupid. He writes, turning the debate into justify why genocide is wrong shifted away from whether Jay had actually established the affirmative goodness claim. Agree. And that's all he did, was try to shift away on who argued the relevant issue more effectively. Marquette was substantially stronger. I'm going to read that again. Marquette was substantially stronger on the goodness conjunct. His evidence did not need to show that Christianity was the sole or divisive cause of every atrocity. I said decisive cause of every atrocity. It needed a meaningful institutional, which I was consistent with, theological, I was consistent with, or normative connection. And several of his strongest examples supplied one. Jay's best legitimate reply was that immoral adherents do not automatically indict every doctrine. He repeatedly weakened that reply by recasting institutional evidence. So it seems like even this analysis of the transcript is busting the fact that he was using slimy tactics. Lying, in other words. He repeatedly weakened that reply by recasting institutional evidence as isolated individual sin, shifting back to Christianity's truth, applying the Christian category selectively, and using other groups did it too, which is a fallacy. As if comparative wrongdoing answered whether Christianity itself met the universal goodness claim. A second pass review of the primary transcript confirmed those patterns. So he was doing it on a consistent basis. And when I say he was dodging, that's the facts. and strengthen the findings on selective category use, burden shifting, and procedural asymmetry. Goddamn. So it's basically saying MarquettDavon Burton defeated both the moderator. Marquette defeated the moderator and he defeated Jay at the same damn time. God damn it. I need a round of applause. And shout out to Nias for sending this in. Shout out. Carrying on. Okay, so it has, okay, these are not clickable. Okay, motions, burdens, what the debate should have been, critical review of the arguments. Okay, cool. So let's see. And let me make sure that you guys can see this. This is good stuff. Wow, this is good stuff right here. Motions, burdens, and what the debate should have been. The announced motion is Christianity true and good for all people? In propositional form, the affirmative motion is a conjunction is true only if both conjuncts are true. Therefore, J, as the affirmative, must establish both T and G. A negative strategy can defeat the motion by undermining either necessary conjunct. Completely true. Marquette explicitly says at 8 minutes, 2 seconds, that he does not want to spend his case on whether Christianity is true. And I said that at the beginning, correct. And will instead argue that it is not good for Black people, while noting that the truth issue may arise in discussion. That is logically coherent. Negative strategy against the literal conjunctive motion. It may be rhetorically incomplete if the parties have privately agreed that both halves must receive equal treatment, but no such requirement appears to be supplied on air rules. The moderator should have clarified this before cross-examination instead of allowing the dispute to consume the debate. Key moderation failure. Cooley should have settled the logical and procedural scope immediately after the opening. J must defend both conjuncts. Marquette may defeat the motion by attacking either one, but he must make clear which conjunct he is negating. That single clarification would have prevented much of the 71 to 78 minute dispute. The phrase good for all people also needs a definition. The debate never operationalizes good. At least 3 meanings are possible. Number 1, the doctrine contains morally good principles. And I agree, it does. It also contains some that are just really bizarre. Number 2, Christianity produces net social benefit relative to alternatives. That is the real thing that matters in the world. That's what I was dealing in. Or 3, Christianity is beneficial to every people or population in the universal sense. I also dispelled that. Jay often defended number 1. Exactly, because that's the only one you can defend because it's just a book. He's basically saying, hey, my book is true because my book says it's true. Cool. I'll let you have that. I'm not going to engage in foolishness with you. I won't allow you to make fools of both of us. You can have that. Jay often defended point 1, while Marquette mostly attacked 2 and 3. Because Jay affirmed the proposition, the initial burden to state and defend the operative meaning of good for all people rested with him. Now, again, you see throughout, he keeps trying to get me to define it. And I'm telling him, you're supposed to define it, which means I was accurate. The negative does not supply a complete rival moral theory merely to test whether the affirmative's own claim survives counterexamples. This is what we were just talking about. I do not have to defend a moral system. I don't have to defend Marquettism. Marquettism is not on trial. Under a literal universal reading, a well-supported counterexample to systematic harm to a people is highly relevant because a universal claim can be defeated by a counterexample. Mere misconduct by people who happen to be Christian would be too weak on its own. There must be a meaningful nexus to Christian institutions, authority, theology, or practice. And look at how good I was. It lays it out. Institutions. I spoke of the Catholic Church. I spoke of the Reformed Church. I spoke of the Protestants. I spoke of the Klan. Authority. I spoke of the Pope. Theology. I spoke of modification of the Bible, the slave Bible. Marquette supplied several such institutional examples. He did not need to prove Christianity was the sole or decisive historical cause of the harm. Correct. And I stayed away from that. Under a different net benefit reading, by contrast, both benefits and harms would require comparative weighing. I agree there. Causal analysis and a baseline. Cooley never made Jay choose which version he was defending. And that's my whole point about the moderation. There was no moderation of Jay. And I still won. Come on now. Oh, we getting into it today. It seems like a lot of the low IQ people dropped off because they can't handle the analysis. Shared moral premise. Jay expressly agreed that genocide is wrong. Once that premise was jointly accepted, Marquette could use genocide and mass enslavement as agreed examples of grave moral harm without first providing an entire secular meta-ethic. The live burden was then whether the cited harms were sufficiently connected to Christianity to count against Jay's universal goodness claim. Critical review of the arguments. Jay's opening case. And mind you, if you actually go back, there's some people who, when they hear someone use polysyllabic words and they know that he has an education, and mind you, Jay went to a school that is now defunct. Just for the record, so everybody knows. But they hear someone use polysyllabic words. They hear that he has a degree. They think that what he's saying has to make sense. And in fact, it doesn't. And he was being very wordy and didn't say much of anything in his opening statement. But let's read what this objective analysis presents. Jay presents two broad lines: a transcendental philosophical case for truth and a historical benefits case for goodness. The truth case is mostly asserted rather than developed. I'm going to repeat that. The truth case is asserted rather than developed within the 5-minute limit. His manuscript count point is evidence about textual transmission and attestation, not a direct proof that theological claims are true. His goodness case is much weaker than the breadth of the motion requires. He lists universities, hospitals, science, Christian ethics, Byzantium, and restraints in Mosaic law. But a list of achievements associated with Christian societies is not the same as establishing that Christianity is good for all people. Now, mind you, these are terrible examples because Islam has universities, secularists have universities, Islam and Judaism have hospitals, everyone has science. You know, it's just ridiculous. Every group of religions, faiths have ethics. You know, it's just terrible. He did a terrible job. He did a terrible job. Let's keep going. The largest burden problem is the universal wording. Even if every listed benefit were historically accurate, evidence that Christianity produced some goods would not establish that it is good for all peoples. Jay needed to define the universal claim and then explain why serious institutional harms to particular populations do not defeat it. Several opening examples also have weak inferential value. The longevity of and I said this during the debate, the longevity of Byzantium does not itself establish moral goodness. I said this last night in the reaction and during the debate. Most successful is undefined, correct? And there's a lot of blood shed for that empire. And claiming Christianity produced science or hospitals compresses complicated histories into single cause origin stories. In other words, that is an idiotic lie. That is an idiotic lie. Now, let's carry on. So far, the objective analysis is revealing that Jay is a moron and his followers are morons. Jay's opening claim: science itself is birthed out of the medieval tradition / university as a Christian invention. Critical assessment: overboard. Medieval Latin Christendom was important to European universities and later scientific development, but modern science coalesced from multiple earlier traditions, including Greek and Islamic natural philosophy. Scholarship specifically cautions against claims that Christianity uniquely caused modern science. So that was wrong. Hospitals came out of Christianity, utterly ludicrous. Definition dependent and too categorical. Greek and Roman treatment institutions predated Christianity. So that's done there. Byzantium's longevity and monetary success. Weak relevance, non sequitur risk. Oh, you notice I said that he had engaged in some non sequiturs. I must have been right. Christianity as the highest ethic. Assertion without comparative demonstration. Jay names the 10 Commandments, but does not establish comparative metrics showing superiority to competing ethical systems, much less universal benefit. Correct. So basically, Brody was fraudulent. His whole opening statement was fraudulent. They did not identify one merit to this man's opening statement. Got it. Marquette's opening case. Marquette directly targets the universal goodness conjunct by focusing on Black peoples and on organized Christian participation in the Atlantic slave trade, colonization, cultural suppression, and apartheid. Several core examples are historically supportable. You notice they didn't say that with Jay. They're saying that my stuff is supported. The scale of the Atlantic trade, the 1807 abridged slave Bible, the papal authorization of conquest, and the perpetual servitude in the 15th century, Dutch Reformed theological defense of apartheid, and Orthodox monastic slaveholding in Wallachia and Moldavia. Oh, Marquette, are you saying when you reference Wallachia and Moldavia and he tried to get out of it by lying and claiming that you were Googling during the debate, are you saying you were actually right there? And he claimed that it wasn't a real source and it's being verified that it's a real source and there appears to be a citation? Okay, interesting. The inferential standard should be stated more carefully than in the first edition of this report. Marquette did not need to prove that Christianity was the sole or decisive cause of each atrocity. Nor, however, would it be enough to merely say Christians did bad things. The relevant showing is an institutional or normative connection: churches, clergy, theology, missionary structures, religious authorization, or Christian political institutions participating in, legitimizing, or materially facilitating the harm. That's the key. Several of Marquette's examples meet that stronger threshold. That makes them genuine counter evidence to a universal claim that Christianity is good for all people, even though it still does not prove that every Christian doctrine, institution, or historical effect is bad. The Bible and slavery exchange. Marquette's original useful point was historical. Pro-slavery Christian and abolitionist Christians both appealed to Scripture. That fact shows Scripture was used in opposing ways, but it does not itself prove that every relevant passage is unclear. Jay correctly identifies that narrow logical problem. He then overreaches, and this is what he does. I said this before. It's a dirty sales tactic. He'll take one small thing and then try to extrapolate in a way that is not logical, is a non sequitur. He then overreaches by converting the Bible has unclear / contested parts, which is what I pointed out, into a much stronger proposition. Therefore, it cannot contain passages that condone or justify slavery. That is the false dichotomy documented in J07. Ooh, this man is fallacious. The individual sinner's defense. Jay's best conceptual point is that wrongdoing by adherents does not automatically refute the truth of a religion or every moral teaching it contains. And I agree, that is valid. But Marquette repeatedly shifts the evidence from isolated adherents, which is what Jay was talking about, to organized churches, theology, missionaries, law, and empires. So he was not actually addressing my arguments. Once the claim becomes institutional, simply repeating, it seems as though the AI picked up that he was repeating, individuals can sin, does not answer whether institutions contributed to, constrain, legalize, or failed to restrain the harm. Category escape. Broad Christianity for benefits, narrow Christianity for harms. I think I know where we're going here. The cheap escape is not literally a Christian who sins is no longer a Christian. Jay expressly says at 12 minutes, 58 seconds that committing a sin does not determine whether someone is a Christian. The stronger transcript-based criticism is selective category use. And I called him out on this during the debate, didn't get any backup from the moderator. In the opening, while claiming historical benefits, Jay says that even deviations like Rome or Protestantism benefited society. I called that out too. Damn, this AI is good. Later, when and I'm smarter than I thought. I mean, I thought I was smart. God damn it, I'm pretty good. Later, when Dutch Reformed and other non-Orthodox harms are raised, he says he is not bound by the Dutch church and that he is not here to defend orthodoxy. A speaker may defend orthodoxy specifically, but he cannot fairly count broader Christian traditions as positive evidence and then exclude those same traditions when their negative record becomes relevant without explaining a principal rule for the asymmetry. I'm just going to summarize that in case you didn't catch that. That was quite a long sentence. They're basically saying that in his opening statement, he tried to count all of the good deeds done by all of the Christian denominations. But when it was time to account the wrong deeds done by all the Christian denominations, then he's like, oh, well, only the Orthodox count. Got it. That is best classified here as special pleading, category asymmetry, with no true Scotsman as a related but less certain label because orthodoxy has been named in Jay's opening. Sound like some of the fallacies I was accusing him of in real time. Seems like I was accurate. The genocide meta-ethics detour. And it was a detour. And guess who took us on the detour? You got it. Your favorite bus driver, Jay. At 6653, Jay asks why genocide is wrong and what account of the good Marquette is using. As a philosophy question, that is legitimate in isolation. It is much less probative in this debate, which is what I said, buddy. That has nothing to do with the debate. Turns out I was right. After Jay says that he agrees genocide is wrong, once both debaters share the premise, Marquette need not derive it from first principles in order to use it. The affirmative burden remains on Jay to establish the proposition that Christianity is good for all people. A negative can say, in effect, you and I agree genocide is gravely wrong. Now explain why Christian institutions participating in or legitimizing such harms do not defeat your universal goodness claim. Cooley should have recognized the stipulation and prevented the meta-ethical loop from consuming the substantive historical dispute, which is to say, Cooley should have moderated against Jay's attempt to distract and evade, which he did not. The African slavery comparison. Jay is not automatically committing to cocaine merely by noting that African societies also practice slavery. The comparison can legitimately test a claim of unique causation. Now, here's the funny thing. That wasn't my claim. But Marquette was not arguing that Christians uniquely invented or uniquely practiced slavery. He was arguing that Christian institutions participated in and justified grave harms, while Jay defended Christianity is good for all people. In the actual exchange, Jay moves from African societies also enslaved to the conclusion that is, quote, not a good argument against Christianity because the vice is universal. At that point, the comparison becomes too cocaine red herring. Oh, I called that out during the debate. And then he pretended as though it wasn't true. Extraordinary. And it's so funny that so many imbeciles, Dunning-Kruger effect, were like, oh, Marquette, you don't understand debate. Well, it appears I understood perfectly. It appears I'm pretty damn good, like I thought. Another group's wrongdoing does not erase the Christian institutional conduct under examination or establish Christianity's goodness. The limited causal point can survive, but it does not answer the motion. African systems of slavery also varied widely. So Marquette's own claim that African slavery was typically non-hereditary and radically different is too sweeping. Now we're coming on to Cooley's moderation audit. 37 out of 10. That is horrible. The low score is not because Cooley failed at everything. His strengths were visible. He announced the format, true. Ran the clock, true. Extended both sides similarly, asked for questions to be restated, and repeatedly tried to restore one mic at a time discussion. The score falls because neutrality and scope management matter more than raw timekeeping in a contentious philosophical debate. Okay, so when it says that he wasn't neutral, it seems as though Cooley was like, hey, I'm going with my Christian buddy. Got it. Got it. So let's see. Timekeeping and announcement format. Okay, showing the weight and how the scores are generated. And so showing the score. Okay, so interruption and decorum control, 2 out of 5. Frequent one mic reminders, but he often intervened only. Okay, very good. Neutrality and impartiality. He gets a 1.5 out of 5. That's very low. Neutrality and impartiality, weak. At 69 minutes, 15 seconds, he substantively explains Jay's argument with a math analogy and directs Marquette to answer it, functioning as an advocate rather than a neutral facilitator. And I think a lot of people noticed that. I'm so kind-hearted and saintly. I was just like, nah, my friend wouldn't do that to me. That's a shame. And that's why I tell you, be good to good people. You have to be around good people, because your saintly nature is always going to cause you to assume the best. I assume people are not trying to do me wrong. Scope and burden of proof clarity, 1 of 5, very weak. He never resolves at the outset whether the negative must contest both conjuncts. He misstates Marquette's position as I don't care if it's true, despite the opening being more qualified. Damn. So he lied on me too? Goddamn. That's a shame. What else? Got a 1 out of 5 on fact checking and consistency. Cooley allows repeated pressure on Marquette for an immediate source at 33 minutes, but does not impose the same standards on Jay's large historical and numerical claims, including the Soviet/China death figures, which were false, mind you. Wow, that nigga did me dirty. Relevance and anti-filibustering control. The meta-ethical detour consumed roughly 10 minutes after both men already agreed genocide is wrong. A stronger moderator would have stipulated the shared premise and returned to causal attribution and the good for all people claim, which is to say he would have stopped Jay and got us back on track. Wow. Handling of fallacy accusations, 1 out of 5, inconsistent. He sometimes treats fallacy labels as substantive adjudications and personally declares Jay to be moving the goalposts, but at other times allows unsupported fallacy labeling to stall the exchange. Let's see, equal standards across speakers. The transcript shows asymmetry in how source challenges, scope disputes, and answer obligations are handled. And we know in whose favor. Good Lord. Fact-checking asymmetry mattered early. Jay's opening contains several contestable historical assertions, also known as lies, including science being birthed from the medieval Christian tradition, utterly ridiculous white supremacy position. Hospitals coming from Christianity, utterly ludicrous. Deuteronomy providing first-of-kind protections, again, blatant lies. And Byzantium being the longest, most successful empire, funny. Cooley did not require a source at all or mark these as disputed. Later, he allowed a prolonged source confrontation over Marquette's Wallachia-Moldavia claim, which the post-debate fact check supports. Oh, so you're saying that Marquette was correct, but the slimy dirtbag who claims to be a Christian did not want to engage it because he hates the truth. He does not want to be exposed. God damn it, I am good. I am good. So you're saying that Jay has told several lies and did not get fact checked. Marquette told the truth and still got fact checked. Extraordinary. A moderator need not live fact check every sentence, but once sourcing becomes a debate rule in practice, it needs to be applied symmetrically. Agree? Cross-examination enforcement was asymmetric. During Marquette's cross-examination, Jake spent long stretches responding with counter questions, fallacy labels, and reframed objections before Cooley finally reminded him at minute 27. That is what Marquette's question. That it was Marquette's questioning time. During Jay's cross-examination, Cooley repeatedly pressed Marquette to answer directly and yield the floor. A moderator can require answers from both sides, but the same standard should have been enforced from both cross-examinations. This nigga finessed me. We're going to have to get him on a live session and have him account for his crimes. Most important moderation errors. During Marquette's cross-examination, Jay repeatedly converts answers into counter questions. So you're saying that I was right when I point out that he would not answer any questions. Extraordinary. Cooley does not enforce the answers role until the period is effectively over. Cooley correctly notes it is Marquette's cross-examination time and direct Jay to answer questions in a way that allows the questions to proceed. During Jay's cross-examination, Cooley repeatedly tells Marquette to answer directly, let Jay finish, and clarify the exact requested point. Right, he was inconsistent. Jay repeatedly questioned whether Marquette Googled/used ChatGPT and demands an immediate academic source. Cooley restores order but never establishes a symmetric rule. Now, here's the irony. I gave way more sources, meaning I gave 5 and he gave 0. That's curious. Weak evidentiary control. The proper move was the claim is disputed, either provide a source after the debate or make it unresolved. The same rule applies to both speakers. And he certainly did not apply it. Cooley asked Marquette to give a non-Christian example so Jay can understand the question, which opens a long Islam, communism, atheist tangent. Topic drift. Agree. The discussion stalls over why genocide is wrong, even though Jay expressly agrees. And that's because Jay's whole goal was to stall out on irrelevant things, anything that was peripheral. Cooley should have stipulated the shared premise and moved the debate to causation, attribution, and the meaning of good. Cooley explains Jay's position with a 1 + 1 = 2 math analogy and tells Marquette to argue against it. Right, he's participating in the argument. I'm thereby arguing against 2 people. A moderator may clarify what a debater said, but supplying and developing the substantive analogy makes the moderator function as a third advocate. I was getting jumped and still won. Goddamn, I'm good. Cooley says Marquette said, quote, I don't care if it's true. Material mischaracterization. So they're pointing out that Cooley literally lied on me. The opening was he did not want to center the truth question, found it less interesting, wanted to focus on goodness, and expected truth might still arise. This is not the same statement. So you're telling me the moderator and the other debater were both lying on me. Goddamn. Cooley says, quote, I'm the moderator. I'm going to let you debate the second part, and correctly identifies Jay's questioning as relating to the good. Partly corrective. Okay. Cooley directly declares that Jay is, okay, let's see. Cooley says that men can have the, okay, carrying on. And let me go ahead and take a pause for the calls. I want to see what folks are saying. This is really fascinating stuff. And what I truly appreciate is the objective nature, because what we found out with this analysis is that it's very clear that human beings are biased. And I think that this is actually a beautiful era, especially for those who historically may have been victim of, I don't know, discrimination, unfair treatment. Now we can get something that's completely objective and say, hey, we looked at a transcript and the transcript told us who was the greatest. Amazing. Let me just give you guys a little bit more of the debate. I'll flip back to this. I know some folks have low attention span, so I'll give you guys a little bit more of the debate and then I'll flip back to this. Monasteries themselves have owned slaves.
Storytelling isn't an account.
That's not storytelling. Those are historical facts. And
it's so not telling me why your ethic is right.
What is,
so maybe I can bridge this gap. I think
Christianity doesn't produce good.
You don't want to
it's
talk
very
about
simple.
it.
Yeah, fellas, maybe I can bridge this gap. So, Marquette, when you were stating your question, you didn't feel that his answer satisfied your question, because you were asking a question in regards to, if, Christianity does all of these things historically.
Did you notice my question?
When should we throw away?
You notice my question was about Christianity, which is on.
Yes.
Yeah. That?
Yeah.
He's just trying to debate abstraction, because when you test Christianity in reality, outside of the mind, you test it in reality, it fails. So
okay, I got you, Marquette. I just want to create some decorum for you guys. So, Marquette, your position was, again, hey, Christianity does all of these evils in history. When should we throw away Christianity? When should we throw it out the door because it does all of these evils? He was giving you an answer like, He tried to explain it before, like math.
What
as
was
far
the answer?
as far as math,
No, not math. We don't need to talk about
He
math. but
didn't
what was
actually-
the specific
he
answer
actually
as to
never-
when Christianity fails and
well,
you're
well,
like, we should throw it away?
Yeah, so
I
he
wanna know
actually
on what
never
metric.
answered. He
What
actually
metric?
didn't answer that particular question because he said it was fallacious on the grounds of, like, if we
And I
think
reject
about
that.
math.
I
And
reject
I know,
that. It's
yep,
not
I know you
fallacious.
rejected it.
So,
So if we
where's the
think about math real quick, I just want to try to create some decorum. If we think about math, like 1 + 1 = 2, that's the system of math.
Sure.
Got it. So if other people think that 1 + 1 = 17, those people will be wrong. But the system of
So right now, I told Cooley I reject what he said. Cooley disregards it and then starts making an argument on behalf of Jay. That's madness. He literally is elaborating to make an argument on behalf of Jay. It's extraordinary.
math would not be wrong. This is why he said that he couldn't really answer the question because the system of Christianity wouldn't be wrong. So
No,
that
that's
was
a non
like,
sequitur. That
okay, so
that does not
there we
follow.
go.
No,
There we go. If that doesn't
You
follow,
admitted
then
that you already
then
no,
Marquette, please argue that then.
Yeah.
I think that's a good conversation there.
you admitted that it was a good line of argument.
No,
Yeah, you did.
no, it's terrible. You've
How?
not made
How?
any legitimate arguments. You've only
How?
tried to escape to
How is that
metaphysical ideas.
How is that terrible?
Your religion completely reveals a history of bloodshed and horror. Even
Oh,
those who
and
say that they're
No
Christian,
ethic,
for
no
example.
account of the
No,
ethic.
listen.
15 more minutes, guys.
For example, why is it that the Christians gave a doctored Bible to the blacks in the Caribbean whom they were enslaving? Well, what's that about?
How about I just concede they were evil?
Those Christians were evil.
Sure.
Oh, okay. Very good.
How does that disprove Christianity?
I never tried to disprove Christianity.
That's the prompt of the debate. Is it true? So you're not going to debate the prompt?
So you heard
Is
my
that the prompt?
opening statement. You heard my
What's the
opening
prompt?
statement. And in my opening statement, I said that,
What is the prompt?
calm down, calm down. In my
So
opening
you said
statement,
you're not going to argue whether it's
calm
true.
down, calm down.
I'm not calming down when
Calm
you just
down.
got caught. You said you're
So
not going to argue whether it's
calm
true.
down. You can rewind to my opening statement. I said,
Again,
is
what the
Christianity
prompt?
true?
I'm
Is
gonna appeal
not
to
very
the moderator.
interesting.
Julie, the prompt
What I
is
stated
got-
true.
specifically is that I want to talk about
I don't
the
care what you want to talk
specifics
about.
of
You agree to
Christian.
the prompt.
I said it in the opening statement,
Is
and
it
you heard
true?
it
Is it the
then.
prompt?
All right,
You heard it
all right,
then.
fellas, let's just create a little bit decorum because
The prompt is
This
it
guy is
true?
very
He says, I don't care
frustrated
if
because
it's
he
true.
can't deal in reality. He just wants to discuss abstraction.
I got
he just
you.
wants to discuss his
So-
True
physical
and
book.
good are metaphysics and epistemology. dude.
the prompt, to be fair to both of you guys and also the audience, the prompt is Christianity true? And is it good for all people? Jay Dyer is asking you a question about, is it true?
And you said,
No.
I don't care if it's
No.
true. That's
No, it's
against
not
the
true.
prompt.
I don't find it to be a very interesting conversation to have
Then
a
why did you
conversation with a
agree to debate
religious
on it?
person, to have
Why
a
did you
conversation with a
agree to
religious
debate it, you
person, say, hey,
goober?
your religion is fake and false.
You're
I
a
mean, that doesn't get us
because you
anywhere.
agreed to a prompt.
What-
You don't
what
even know what it
instead-
is.
That's fine. You don't have to talk while I'm talking. So what I'm here to do,
Is
as
it the
I
prompt?
stated, is I am interested in the last part, which is Christianity a force for good?
So you don't want
And
to
then I
debate the
gave you
prompt.
all the
So you
examples
are you
that
conceding the
history.
debate?
Calm down. I gave you all the examples that your history is one of
Are you conceding
bloodshed
the prompt?
and abuse of children, women, and men.
I'm not.
So
If
it
he's
is
not
not
going to
good.
debate the prompt, then
Okay.
It is not good.
So,
So inherently, if we argue that Christianity is not a force of good, then clearly the
You're a
subtext is that it is
sophist.
to,
not
I mean,
true.
the
to be
subject is
fair,
not even
That's
doing
a
the
to be
prompt.
fair to both of you, how about we just do this? Because Jay Dyer did have a question. Marquette's answer did not satisfy Jay Dyer. So let's just go ahead and throw it aside. Is Christianity
Well,
true?
my
And
questions
real
were
quick,
never
I know-
answered on his part.
Yeah, I
wasn't
know,
satisfied
it
with them
was. I know
either.
you wasn't
And also,
satisfied
you'll
either. I
notice he
agree.
declined to answer 3 questions.
I agree.
Why
I agree.
should I answer when you don't want to debate the prompt?
So real quick. Real quick. I think we got a place of we can agree. Jay Dyer, you asked the question, what is the good that Marquette is judging Christianity? Marquette
Right.
does want to debate that second part, so let's just keep it there. He wants to debate,
you-
is Christianity good for all people?
Cooley, did you hear the part you said, what is the good that I'm judging Christianity on? And I'm saying mass murder is not good.
Okay,
I'm saying
why?
genocide is not good.
So assertions. Why?
Correct. And the difference is that
Can you make assertions? Can I make assertions?
I hear you, Jay.
You're not
And
hearing it.
your
You're not
your
hearing it.
goal on here is to win a debate.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
to debate, and you're saying I don't want to debate.
Fantastic. No, that's really good. That's really good. And my goal on here is to counter the proselytizing that Christians do.
But
So
that's
I
not
know
what
that
this
people
is.
with common sense. I know
So
people
you're
with
not here
common
to
sense.
debate.
Calm down. Calm down.
So
you don't
he's
have to
conceding
calm
that
down.
he's
You're
not here to
Christian.
debate.
Don't you guys have some decorum? Just stop.
Hey,
talking
hey,
all
hey,
the
I
time.
don't know what I'm
fellas,
supposed
real
to do,
quick.
and he's
How about
conceding
we
a debate.
stick
Calm down
on
for a
one
second.
particular point? If we're speaking about is Christianity good for all people,
Right.
I think that Marquette, and you said
true.
that that's what you want to focus on. So I'm trying to create some
And I
balance
was
here.
talking, but he keeps interrupting. It's kind
Wait,
of
that was-
strange.
that was
Okay, got it.
crazy.
Real quick.
Genocide bad.
He
Got
keeps
it. So,
interrupting.
That was crazy that Cooley said, I'm trying to create some balance. And then this was run wholly through AI. And ironically, AI says he was woefully unbalanced in the favor of Jay Dyer. God damn.
fellas, real quick.
And
Let
just
me
like he said,
give me.
Why do you guys think that was? Those of you in the live chat, why do you think that was that he favored Jay Dyer?
Give me
he's
1
asked
minute, fellas.
illegitimate
Fellas, let
questions.
me just get 1 minute for both of you and also the audience. Marquette, you said that you want to debate the second part. Oh, I'm the moderator. I'm going to let you do that.
And by the way, shout out to Niaz for sending in this very thorough report, which is extremely accurate, objective, and a huge value. I really appreciate that. I think to this date, that has been the most valuable send-in that has occurred during a live stream. So I really thank you for that. That was brilliant.
Jay Dyer actually has a question on the second part of the prompt, which is Christianity good? His question was, what is your account for the good? So maybe we can start there so we can get some understanding. Is Christianity actually good or not? Since you guys want to debate that second part. So. Floor is yours. Jay Dyer, if you want to go ahead and ask a question.
What is your account of the good? It's in the prompt.
You're asking me to define good.
Why is it bad to genocide? On your ethic.
I think this is a stupid question. Like, are you going
So the
somewhere with
debate
that?
itself is stupid.
So, and shout out to the Saint for sharing the black code with regards to my question. Like, well, why do you think Cooley favored him? It's a really important question, and certainly a good time to drop the black code. This is something for all of the melanated peoples on earth. Teach you how to conduct yourself as an individual and as a collective. If you don't have it, you're going to want it.
Why did you take it?
No, the debate could be meaningful if you were not in bad faith. If you're here saying, well, why is murder bad? Why is
On your
genocide
system, why is it bad? I agree it's bad.
I'm
but
not here to
why?
argue my system. That's the beauty, is I don't have to defend anything. You're defending Christianity. So what you really should be asking is,
But you have
well,
an account of the
why
good.
are Christians engaging in things that are knowingly bad? Unless you're
You have an
suggesting
account
that
with
genocide
the-
is not
you
bad.
have free will.
Are
and
you
humans can
suggesting
still-
that genocide is not bad?
we have a free will and humans can still sin?
Yes,
So I want to
that's
know. It's a
phenomenal.
fair question to you.
I would
Why?
not debate free will with anyone.
I don't care what you want to debate about. I'm saying that's my answer. You can like it or not.
Very good.
That's
good.
not in.
And I'll tell you my answer. My answer is to why is genocide bad? I don't have an answer because I don't have a system to defend. So now,
So then how can you say that it's universally wrong to engage in these activities?
right.
And he and I had already agreed that genocide is bad. And even if we didn't agree on it, the whole planet Earth knows that it is. And so his goal, because he cannot defend his the activities of his religious cohort, that he wants to talk about something else. It's like you bust your girlfriend cheating on you, which thank God I've never experienced. But, you know, I've seen a lot of these reels on Instagram. They're quite funny. You bust the broad cheating and then you say, hey, what were you doing with Sammy? And then she's like, well, you didn't love me. You didn't treat me. It's like, whoa. That is not the current conversation topic. We have a much more important conversation to engage.
Very good. So you're saying that the genocide that occurred under Christians may not be wrong. Is that your suggestion?
Well, I'm saying why, if I adopt your system, is it wrong?
You're not adopting my system. I never
I am
said
in
that I
this
have a
argument.
system. I
It's
never.
And you see the utter like ludicrous nature. He's like, well, if I adopt your system, I don't have a system. I've not mentioned a system. My system is not under investigation. This is a debate on the Christian system. And there is no one who can be honest and say that he was debating in good faith. By the way, the MDB label hoodie, this is actually a new design that we have. It's usual elegance and simplicity, but there's no string on the hoodie. There's no drawstring. Why? Because it gets in your way when you're exercising and it's not useful. Nobody ever pulls the drawstring on their hoodie to tighten it. It was just a little step up in terms of design.
mdblabel.com. Make sure you have your uniform hat. If you ever show up to the assassin event, make sure you got that on deck. I use these for all kinds of things, looking good, and also get my workout out because I like to get hot quickly. So even if it is hot, I'm working out in a hoodie. Propose the system. So again, you're lying.
Internal critique of your argument. Why audit?
Man, you're lying. I never said I had a system. I've not established.
Everybody has a system.
I've never established any criteria.
We're talking about
Christianity, and what we're observing is that your inability to defend the actual behaviors.
You do have.
Now you're trying to go on the attack. You cannot defend, so now you're trying to attack. It's very simple.
Fellas, one mic at a time. Let one another speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, we should call bro Jay Dyer.
Everybody, he's appealing to.
I like that.
And saying that it's bad on what basis?
And the funny thing, being that we got that objective AI analysis, I want to know what the dweebs are going to say now. Now that we got the objective facts, what are the dweebs going to say now? On no basis. And now I'm asking you.
So no basis.
Now I'm asking you. Bro said he pulled that hoodie all the time, the string. Hey, you know what's crazy? I feel like I have seen you with the string pulled. I feel like maybe it's because I don't have any hair. Maybe people with hair use the string. That's a good point. He says, I'm copping the hoodie regardless. Absolutely. Oh, it's crazy.
Argument against Christianity.
Now I'm asking you, as a Christian, do you find that the genocides that have been committed by Christians are okay? Like they're morally?
No, it's wrong. And I said why? Because humans have the ability to still commit sins and crimes.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing inconsistent with Christianity about that.
Sure. And if the gospel or the scriptures are saying one thing, and then the adherents in an organized fashion, organizing with other members of the church, are doing things that are in direct contradiction, at what point do we acknowledge that Christianity can't produce Christians?
It's a no true Scotsman's fallacy to assume that the only true Christians would meet up to some arbitrary standard that you're setting that I don't even know what it is. So within Christianity,
I actually thought it was you using the no true Scotsman fallacy,
you can think
suggesting that people are not Christians because they are being your narrow definition of orthodoxy.
No, I simply said I don't defend those groups, and I don't have to because it's not my position.
Okay. Was the Byzantine Empire, were they Orthodox?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did they have slaves?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Were they only black?
Now this is an interesting part. We need to clip this. That they were not.
Hold on. So
we need to clip this. The racism always comes out. I think that's peripheral, actually. Now you guys got to ask yourself, why does the racism have to always come out? We're gonna rewind this. And they hate me the most. I want you guys to know they hate me the most. They hate me the most. They don't hate the tall basketball playing athletic one. No. They hate the smart one. Oh, he is the most hated. He's the most dangerous. They hate me the most. And it always comes out. I got to make a note of this. This is good. This is at minute 1 hour, 17 seconds. Say 18, actually. I want you all to pay attention. What does race have to do with it? What does race have to do with it? It's very strange. And you'll also notice that his chat was very filled with hatred. That tells you something about these people. And again, the reason you need the black code. Byzantine Empire, were they Orthodox?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, notice, and we're about to get to a good point. I said, okay, hey, you mentioned this empire as a great example. Were they Orthodox? Okay, great. Did they do this bad thing? Now, all of a sudden, he wants to take another turn into something unrelated. Did they have slaves?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Were they?
And now he's behaving like he has a developmental issue. Yes or no, doofus? It's like grunting like a Neanderthal. Empire, were they Orthodox?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did they have slaves?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Were they only black?
I didn't suggest that they were not.
Hold on. So if they're not, and if other groups engage,
I think that's peripheral, actually. So when we're talking, we're not talking about black and white. We're not. Now you have to ask yourself. We've gone the whole debate. We're not talking about black and white. It's irrelevant. We're talking about, did this Christian empire engage in enslavement? We're not asking, did they enslave blacks, Mexicans, whites, Arabs? It doesn't matter. We're saying that slavery as an institution is wrong, And we're asking, did they engage in this morally wrong activity? That's it. So the idea of like they're black, they're not black, it's irrelevant. Who cares? Doesn't matter. So notice that this comes out of nowhere, and it seems like he wants to dive into it. Let's ask ourselves why.
It's not my position.
Okay, was the Byzantine Empire, were they Orthodox?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And mind you, I'm so good that we agreed on what Christian was. I argued against the different denominations. Then he tried to retreat and say, well, I'm Orthodox Christian. I said, okay, cool. Let's go Orthodox Christian. Let's talk about this particular empire. Were they Orthodox? He says, yes. I said, okay, let me cook them real quick. Since you didn't like me cooking the other ones, let me cook yours real quick. Now, all of a sudden, he don't want no smoke. He wants to go on a detour.
So within Christianity,
I actually thought it was you using the no true Scotsman fallacy,
you could think
suggesting that people are not Christians because they don't meet your narrow definition of orthodoxy.
No, I simply said I don't defend those groups, and I don't have to because it's not my position.
Okay. Was the Byzantine Empire, were they Orthodox?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did they have slaves?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Were they only black?
Games. Were they only black? I didn't suggest that they were. We're not.
Hold on. So if they're not, and if other groups engage,
I think that's peripheral, actually. So when we're not talking about black and white. We're not talking about race right now. Jay. We're talking about.
You came to you argued that it's not good for
Jay, you're getting off topic again.
You argued.
Why
are you so dishonest, man? You
just said they're not black. So now you're engaging a red herring.
No, I'm not. I'm illustrating.
Hold on one second. You're moving the goalposts now. You're moving the goalposts. Jay, I got you. Calm down one second. You're moving the goalposts.
I'm not.
You said, hey, these other people are not Christians. I said, cool. Are you an Orthodox Christian? You said yes. I said, we're the Byzantines, Orthodox Christians. You said yes. I said, fantastic. Did they own slaves? Then you said yes. They weren't black. I didn't suggest that they were black. That is actually not germane.
I'm making an argument about this. I'm saying
that's not germane to the current argument. So what I'm asking you now,
if you let me flesh this out, because
flesh it out.
Okay, just one mic at a time, fellas. Go ahead.
Flesh it out.
Can I flesh this out?
Yeah, flesh it out.
The reason I'm saying that is that not only did they have multiple types of a slave class, including there is such a thing as white slavery, which is, and also there is the African slave trade. So by this line of argumentation, the African indigenous religions that enslaved other trades would also be necessarily false, but you were trying to argue that the African indigenous religions were violated by Christianity. So all of this is based on arbitrary assertions, and it's all ad hoc.
Are you finished fleshing? I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Okay. So now talking about the Byzantine Orthodox Christians who own slaves. So you do defend these Christians because they're part of your church, right?
I don't know how many times I have to say this. I can say that it was wrong, but I'm just asking you because I don't want you to say, well, I'm not from the Byzantine Empire. I'm just trying to make sure that we're talking about a group of Christians that you identify with. That's all I'm asking. This is a worthless.
You don't have to filibuster. I'm just asking you.
I'm not filibustering.
Bro won't answer any questions. Shout out to Ronell writes, saying there should have been better moderating came in via Cash App. Yeah, I think we all agree, including the AI. Shout out to Venmo. Carter, he writes via Venmo. Alternate title: Intelligent Pragmatist tries to reason with a brick wall. I'm trying to tell you, bro. He comes back. He writes, to start the debate, I was sure that he was misguided. By the end of it, I was sure that he was evil. You can see the colonial and racist white supremacist mindset fully revealed. Peace to the saints. Carter comes back. He writes, peace to the saints. I think Cooley is just not that intelligent, or at least not intelligent enough to moderate a formal debate. I'm not entirely sure if he was being malicious, unintelligent, or both. Shout out to Carter supporting the work. I appreciate you. May I also acknowledge Jing C came in supporting via Venmo. Appreciate you. Shout out to Kendall. Just went and got the men's box hoodie on mdblabel.com. Log in, boss up. That's the premium offering. You dig? And I love the ribbing, for example. These are the things that show you the quality. I know my camera's a bit dark, but it's the ribbing and then the smoothness of the material. Quality. Carrying on. With this group of Christians. Dude. It's just a simple question.
Dude, you realize that like you already lost like 85%.
Just calm down. I'm asking you, do you identify? Okay, very good. I'm asking you, do you identify with this group of Christians?
I just said that I disagree with specific actions. And
He won't even
so he's
answer
not
the
going to let me
question. It was a yes or no question. He won't even answer the
Marquette,
question.
since your microphone pushes his down, if you could just allow him to at least
I
like
did
land
allow
the plane.
I said a yes or no question. Do you identify with this group of Christians who are also Orthodox Christian? And then
I identify with all Orthodox Christians, yes, and I admit that they commit sin. So what?
Fantastic.
How does this disprove Christianity?
I'm not trying to disprove Christianity.
Then then you haven't come to the debate. Thank
Very
you.
good. So
you don't
what
care
I'm
about
at, okay.
So again, you don't care about the prompt.
Why do you keep cutting me off? Can you calm down?
Because you're lying.
You know, and it's so funny how utterly combative he is the entire time. It's like, where's that Christian grace? Where's the conduct of Jesus? Huh? Where is it? Shout out to Ray. He writes, appreciate the time and effort, Quet, but honestly, a recognized and approved Christian representative asks, does 2 + 2 = 5? And why is genocide bad? If no Christian will call out any of that, I would say Christianity took a major L yesterday. Shout out to Saleh. He writes, peace of saints. I watched the whole debate. Noticed a few points, like if you say your way is superior, then that will be exemplified in your actions by doing that which is not common and living in a superior way to others. Also, look at the comment and how his followers were behaving like animals completely. He comes back, he writes, the man didn't seem to have much problem with genocide. In fact, he stated it's human nature. It's the nature of some type of humans. Shout out to Grow Together, writes, thank you for the knowledge. Peace to the saints. Peace to the saints indeed. Shout out to Miles. He writes, peace to the saints. I don't know how you do it, Mr. Burden. I would have lost all patience during this debate. Jay Dyer and Andrew Wilson are the same type of liar. Religious people who keep hitting new lows, and the white supremacists have to champion better leaders than this. Oh, I agree. And that's why I really have been trying my best to lead the movement. Shout out to Dominic. He writes, peace of saints tuition. Thank you for the back-to-back analysis. I'm still catching up on the lesson and lectures. I'm still having the loop with the vendor registration. No kidding. It's saying that I'm a platform administrator. Is this with the new email address? Send me a separate email so that we can get on that for you. And I appreciate the note. I also acknowledge Akash writes, I really like this objective document. Shout out to the person who did this piece of Niaz. Shout out. Hugely valuable. Kristen writes, peace of the saints. Since Cooley is a Christian and a tether. He writes, I knew this could be biased. I would say that if Cooley cannot review this document, then his head needs to go in on a stake. Assassin or nothing. Shout out to the saint for the objective analysis. Shout out to Wade. He writes, peace of the saints tuition. And also acknowledge Clay. He writes, ironically, you're the one who actually is doing the Lord's work. Keep spreading the ism, saint. Sir, yes, sir. And you're 100% right. We got Christians defending genocide. Times are getting dark here. Times are getting very, very dark. Now, I was raised Baptist, Southern Baptist Christian, and I don't remember this kind of thinking. I feel like the people were a bit more positive then.
About what the prompt is.
Can you calm down? Just calm
Why
down.
are you lying, dude?
Why do you keep repeating yourself? It's like you're scared to have a discussion. Just calm down. Just calm down. If he doesn't care to I'm trying to speak to you about the topic.
Hey, fellas, let's just create some little decorum. You guys are professionals. All right. So
I'm gonna say if he's not, I'm not gonna reply anymore if he's conceded that he's not gonna deal with the prompt. He says he doesn't care about disproving Christianity when it's the frickin' prompt.
Jay, is the prompt also about Christianity being a good thing? We're talking about Orthodox Christian. You see how I point that out, and then all of a sudden he wants to like shake his head as though, you know, that's an issue. Because what he's attempting to do is to get me to address the first part of the prompt, which he finds to be more theoretical and Christian, scripture based. I'm addressing the second part of the prompt, and if I address the second part, the second conjunct, effectively, it destroys the whole thing. It destroys everything that he's arguing. I only have to win at the second part of the prompt. He's trying to get me into a theoretical argument, which is not necessary or useful for humankind. It's not useful to argue scripture. It's useful to argue in ways that create a standard for conduct on the planet Earth. And I'm asking you about the enslavement and the ownership of
with saying that all
and the ownership of slaves.
They all do slavery. Was there an African slave trade?
That's not the current. And you know, it's really interesting too, because he says everyone does slavery. Okay, well, first off, that's the tu quoque fallacy, and it's irrelevant. And of all the slavery, if everyone does it, why are you asking me about the African slave trade? It's very interesting. Shout out to Wayne. He writes, the zealots will say AI is biased. Isn't that something? Right. Biased in my favor too, curiously. Topic.
I'm asking you a simple question.
That is
So all
not
groups
the
do
current
it.
topic. That's
So
not
you're
the current
deflecting
topic,
and
Jay.
evading an obvious
Jay,
fact
that's
that you
not
know.
the current topic, Jay.
Okay, so he doesn't want to go there because he knows it refutes his argument.
No, it's because it's just not the current
Did
topic.
indigenous tribes
It's
enslave
not the-
other
It's
Africans?
not the current topic.
Did they?
Jay.
Just did they?
You know, we all know the answer. It's just not the current topic. That's
It
not what we're
doesn't- so
talking
you don't.
about.
So this is how dishonest you are. You can't deal with your own history.
Jay, what do you mean my
Jay,
own history?
Jay.
What do you mean my own history? What are
Oh,
you
so you're not
talking about?
identifying with black people?
Are you on topic?
You mentioned
Now, this is crazy. Our debate is about Christianity. And now he's saying that I don't identify with my own people. What? What? What are you talking about? How does this become a racial history discussion, like about my racial history? This is when you're losing the debate. You're just trying to just scratch. It's like you're getting beat up in a fight and you start biting people. You know, you just resort to anything. Bro is out here biting and gouging eyes out. He does not care. Way off
statement. How is that not on topic?
Jay, you're way off topic. I know every time we start talking about every time we start
Was
talking about
there
the actual
indigenous
topic of
African slave
Christians
trade?
and Christianity,
Did
then
African
you
tribes
want to
enslave
talk about
other
other
tribes? Did they?
What is the relevance
So
of
he's
that
not-
to the current topic,
It's
Jay? I'm
relevant
going to
because
yield the
it shows
floor.
that it's not unique to
Take me through the
Christianity.
logic. Take me through the logic.
Because it's not
Explain it to
unique
me.
to Christianity, so it's
I
not a
never
good
said it was
argument.
unique. In fact, I earlier stated that the Muslims have also done this.
So
But
then it's not a good argument against Christianity. You should see that.
no, sir. No, sir. It is pointing out that if
When you admit
Christianity
that.
is a force for good and Christianity is being used to organize evil
You
and
haven't
the
demonstrated
structures
that.
of the church,
You haven't
the
demonstrated.
theology of the church, and the missionary are being used to engage cultural erasure, commit genocide, and create laws to justify their evil, then we cannot suggest that Christianity is a good force. And this has occurred
If you
across
admit that
all of the
The
dominations.
other people groups that are oppressed engaged in the same activities, then it proves my line of argumentation that it's not.
No,
Why
it just
interrupting me, dude?
proves-
Why
Okay,
you
go ahead.
interrupting when you know you're
Go ahead.
losing bad?
Go ahead.
If every people group, including your own history and people group, engaged in these activities, then it's a universal human vice to engage in these types of things. So it's not a good argument against Christianity because it would disprove every system. That's why.
Neat. So what I'm pointing out to you is that if Christianity is the force for good, then what is ailing the world or the worldly people should not be preponderant among the Christians because they are supposed to have a value
No, that's a
system.
fallacy.
You're interrupting me
It's a
again. You're interrupting
No,
me
I'm just
again.
telling you that's a fallacious
Well,
line of
when I
argument.
was in, you claimed I was interrupting you. Now you're interrupting me.
Yeah, just let him land his plane.
So what you're suggesting is that Christians are no better than any other group.
No.
You're also using the
This guy
two
keeps
fallacy
interrupting.
and
It's
suggesting,
crazy.
well, they did it too, which that
No.
doesn't make it okay or any
two-quote.
better. And furthermore,
Not too quick.
the truth, again, you're interrupting, you have no self-control. And again, the fact of the matter is that slavery in different places was radically different. For example, scholar Leonardo Ariola, who's an expert in African politics,
Yet
points
another
out that
reference.
African slavery was radically different than that which was practiced by European Christians, the
So?
Spanish, the Portuguese, just how petty and immature is that? The whole time I'm talking, just no level of decorum, no level of maturity as a man, not being called out on it at all. Extraordinary. The Americans. So that
radically
why do you keep
different how?
talking? Why do you keep
Different how?
talking? Wait, why do you keep talking?
Different how?
Why do you keep interrupting?
Different how?
It's almost like you don't want
It's
me
a fair
to.
question.
Why do you keep interrupting?
Different how?
Why do you keep?
You guys can have the
interrupting?
back
No,
and forth,
Andrew,
fellas.
he's
Go
just
ahead, fellas.
reading
Have the back and
ChatGPT.
forth. Do it.
He's
No.
just reading ChatGPT again.
No, that's funny that you say that because, for example, in the African context, you don't become a slave through birth. Typically, you're becoming a slave by being a POW or owing a debt or being a criminal. It was not racialized in the African context.
Okay. So that's the good slavery.
No, sir. Furthermore,
still evil?
Why do you keep interrupting? It's like weird. You asked
All
me
right,
for an
fellas,
answer.
that's the time for the open dialogue. Do you
Real
guys
quick,
want to
though,
extend
Cooley,
this
real
out
quick,
for
I
a
just
little
wanna
bit?
know that-
No,
I don't want to extend it. But you asked me for a question. You asked me a question, then I started answering. You interrupt, ask another question. I start answering it
No,
again,
you're just reading
and then
off
you
papers.
interrupt.
You're
And
just
you
reading
interrupt
off
yes
papers.
again. It's really strange.
What
Okay,
you're reading
fellas.
doesn't
You're a
even
very
answer the objection.
maladjusted person, and I find it very
All right,
strange that
can we go to
Christians,
closing
they
statements?
Yeah,
don't
fellas, we're
show
going to
up in
do
a
closing
positive way.
statements.
Whine, complain.
They're very
Fellas, we're going to do
maladjusted.
closing statements. Both of you are going to have 5 minutes. Marquette, since Jay went.
I'll finish it last. Go ahead, Jay.
Well, actually, how it works is since Jay took the affirmative position and he went
Okay.
first, he gets to decide if he wants to go last or first with the closing statement.
He can
So-
go. I'll go last.
Sure.
Okay, Marquette, the floor is yours.
The argument was about, is Christianity a force for good? When we take Christianity and hold it up against other systems, we see that it doesn't perform any better than Islam, than communism, than any other major system that has affected the masses of the earth. We find that the Christians have engaged in the eradication largely of the Native American. They've engaged in the enslavement of the African. They've engaged into colonization around the whole planet Earth. They've even leveraged their theology, their missionaries, to destroy culture, to use the church itself to enact their evil. They don't even believe in their own Bible, because if you believe the Bible is truly divine and of God, why would you try to recraft that which God created? They created a fake edited Bible and gave it to the blacks who were enslaved so that they could enslave the mind in addition to the body. The actions of Christians across the world as a collective organized, and this is true of all of the denominations, have been utterly vicious. And what often happens among Christians is that they use the no true Scotsman's fallacy. Oh, he's not. And you'll hear them interrupting and laughing and giggling during my closing statement. This is the nature of the devils. This is clearly a devil, not a real Christian. Oh, these are heretics. Well, we'd have to be talking about entire countries and entire societies and talking about hundreds of years of history. No, this is quintessentially Christianity as organized by the leaders. The clergy justified this. You can find the Pope justifying this. You can find everywhere that there's Christianity, you'll find bloodshed. Christianity is not for Black people. Christianity is no superior force for good. I yield the floor.
All right, thank you for that closing, Marquette. Jay, the time is yours when you start speaking.
All right. So debates are essentially in the domain of philosophy, logically and necessarily. That's what they are. They are guided by the rules of logic, the laws of logic, and critical thinking. So that means that when the other person violates those things, they have to be called out. And this debate was about two philosophical conceptions. Is Christianity true, and is it good for all people?
Shout out to Austin, came in support. He writes, a white Christian asking what's wrong with genocide. Shocker. Bruh, I'm trying to tell you, May. May also acknowledge via PayPal. Shout out to Mr. Gardner. He writes, peace to the saints. I wasn't able to watch the whole debate. I know this guy got obliterated. Oh, 100%. And this man was very butthurt about it too. Very emotional. Shout out to Alan. He writes, the true religion of the racist white is white supremacy, not Christianity. If Christianity was a true religion, then the Christian church would be so segregated. I'd like to say that it is mostly segregated. He writes, the slavery is slavery narrative is disingenuous. It's akin to saying crime is crime when intelligent people realize that jaywalking is to not be scrutinized or punished to the same degree as murder. Likewise, POW style slavery is not to be compared to chattel enslavement. Agree. Shout out to Teddy. He writes, Jay is a weak, sissy Christian male. One of those words I couldn't say, but I agree wholeheartedly. Shout out to Chris. Just got the black MDB label uniform hat right here, which everyone should definitely have. There's a couple items you necessarily have to have. Definitely this one, and then also the uniform shorts, which are like our athletic shorts for when you show up to the workouts. And if you're not a member, you can join at peacetothesaints.com. That's where we all gather digitally in the digital commons, and there's sections around the world. These guys meet up. It's no cost, do workouts, socialize, things like that. We're an in-person movement of professionals pursuing excellence in health and wealth. May I acknowledge Akash? He writes, the fact that Cooley is still Christian after what you talked about during the debate is very telling. Guess he needs his Christian identity to keep his audience. You know, I think it is interesting to notice that Talmud Tatum is Christian, Candace Owens is Christian, and you know there's certain necessities that go along with that. And when I characterize it in certain ways, you can see why when you like really make a study of like, okay, well, what are the things surrounding these persons? They kind of have similar profiles, in other words.
Those are essentially both epistemic and ethical and metaphysical topics, the good and the true. So it's absolutely appropriate to bring in all types of questions about how we give an account for the true and the good multiple times.
You'll notice that he kind of left out like the material discussion. Very curious.
Throughout this debate, we've heard the opponent state that he's not here to debate the truth of Christianity.
Correct. In the logic, it was noted by the AI that if I perform on the second part of the claim, it necessarily negates the first part, which is if you can establish that Christianity is bad or is not good, more accurately, then it is necessarily not true, because you're saying that Christianity positions itself as a system that creates goodness in the world. So if you can prove that it's not good, then it necessarily is not true. So one needn't focus on the scriptural claims. Anyways, and I think he knows that. Shout out to Nova. He writes, I sent a last second super chat yesterday before the live ended. You would have to tell me what that is, but I thank you for the support. And I always tell everyone to get them in early. For that reason, shout out to Starry Eye writes, Cooley bugging out. Shout out to you, Saint. Anybody can get it. It be like that. It got to be like that. He writes, damn, Saint, you literally had to debate someone and teach Cooley how to be a moderator at the same time. It looks like amateur hour. Shout out to Starry Eye. He writes, they terrified, mortified, petrified, stupefied by you. It appears that way. Shout out to 9906 writes, Peace of the Saints, I'm going to Cape Town tomorrow for 4 days. And then Joburg, what should I expect? And any recommendations or tips? Yeah, definitely. I try to get as close to Camps Bay as possible. Nice beach area and have a good time. Cape Town is very beautiful. When I stay in Joburg, I'm usually in Maboning, which is an okay part of town, reasonably walkable. People say Joburg is dangerous. It does have some seedy areas. I found Cape Town to be exceedingly safe. I wouldn't walk out ultra late at night. I didn't have any problems. I don't think that you will. And obviously right now they have the political stuff going on, which, you know, may have changed the nature of some things. They're anti-immigrant at the moment, so hopefully they can differentiate you from a Black African from elsewhere. Starry Eye writes, Cooley waiting on a hippie with blue eyes wearing a dashiki to save him. Oh, man. Listen, it's a wild world. Ladies and saints, I appreciate you all supporting this work. It's been a pleasure. And oh yeah, man, I might have to take out some time to go through this document here, because I do want to honor this document right here that was put together. Let's get back after it. For the people who have some IQ, let's lock in. This is the document that was provided with regards to an objective analysis of the debate. And so let's take a look. So let me pop this up. There we go. Was Cooley supposed to fact check or call fallacies? There's no single universal rule across all formal debate formats. A neutral moderator ordinarily owns procedure, time, turn taking, relevance, clarification, and agreed rules. Judges or the audience normally own the final adjudication of argument quality. A moderator can ask for sourcing. Mark a factual claim is disputed, or flag that a speaker has changed the claim. But unless the rules explicitly authorize substantive judging, the moderator should avoid announcing that is a fallacy as if deciding the debate. Cooley's problem is therefore not that he failed to become a full-time fact checker. It is that he crossed into substantive adjudication selectively. While failing to apply consistent standards, he helped articulate Jay's analogy, personally called it a goalpost shift, and mischaracterized Marquette's scope, yet did not challenge highly contestable numerical and historical claims from either side. Fact check and source auditing. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Let's see who actually did have the facts on their side. So this table focuses on claims that were material to the debate and that a well-run format should either source in advance, flag as disputed, or verify after the round. It is not an exhaustive fact check of every historical sentence. So Jay claims that the New Testament is the most well-attested ancient document. It has 5,000 plus copies / manuscripts within the first few centuries. The New Testament has an unusually large manuscript tradition, but the 5,000 plus Greek manuscripts span many centuries. Only a small fraction are from the earliest centuries, which is to say that the other ones are shiesty or possibly shiesty. Manuscript abundance supports textual criticism, not by itself the truth of supernatural claims. Yeah, and the fact that there's so many damn manuscripts, I don't think that adds value. I think that's why you have so many damn versions and different canons, and that's a problem. That is not a merit. Jay notes Deuteronomy claims the first ancient protections for lower classes, slaves, and bands are APE. This is unsupported and misleading. Ancient Near Eastern law codes predate Deuteronomy and include legal protections. Deuteronomy regulates taking a captive woman as a wife, calling it a simple RAPE ban overstates the text. So he was lying, trying to make the scripture sound better than it is. Jay says science itself was birthed in medieval Christian university tradition. This is overboard and misleading. Christian Europe was an important setting for medieval natural philosophy and the later scientific revolution, but modern science did not originate from Christianity alone. Greek, Islamic, and other intellectual traditions materially contributed. Historians of science caution against unique Christian origin thesis, which is to say he lied. We should be counting these up. The university itself is a Christian invention. The medieval European university arose in Latin Christendom, but institutions of advanced learning predate Christianity and existed outside Europe. Okay, so he was lying again. Got it. Hospitals come out of Christianity. Definition dependent / overboard, also known as lying. Let's see. Christian philanthropy was highly important, blah, 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 blah. The categorical wording erases genuine antecedents, while a narrower Christian institutional development claim is defensible. Got it. So basically, he tried to use the term hospital to suggest that there were not places of healing and places of for medical concerns before the European hospital concept. The Byzantine Empire was the longest and most successful empire, including in monetary policy. Now, mind you, this is completely non-germane to the actual conversation and debate. The longevity of Byzantium is notable, but most successful, and superiority in monetary policy are undefined comparative judgments, not established facts in the debate. Now on to Marquette. About 12 million enslaved Africans were transported across the Atlantic, with additional deaths occurring during capture marches and confinement. Broadly supported. Okay, so I guess it's saying that I was telling the truth there. All of the denominations joined in. It was an ecumenical Christian movement. Now, I was literally joking. For those of you who are familiar with theology, you know that ecumenical is kind of a lexical term for theologians. And so I was basically joking that it was a Christian movement to do this evil. So that was hyperbole. That's a joke. I guess the AI doesn't have a sense of humor. Enslaved Black people were given an edited slave Bible. That's correct. The 1807 parts of the Holy Bible selected for the use of the Negro slave in the British West India Islands omitted large portions, including material such as Exodus. Popes in the Roman Catholic Church explicitly authorized and condoned enslavement during Portuguese expansion. Nicholas Duumdivarus and Romanus Pontifex authorized Portuguese rulers to reduce certain non-Christians to perpetual servitude. Later papal teachings also contained significant okay, now here's the funny thing too. It becomes Christians, right? Because remember, they gave the slave Bible to the blacks. The Christians did, right? The Dutch Reformed Church developed theological defenses for apartheid, supported. So what you'll notice is that going through his are poorly supported. His are poorly supported. Poorly. You never see just the word supported along any of his claims. They're poorly supported. Here it just says supported, meaning I'm telling the truth. Here it says supported, meaning I'm telling the truth. There's no qualification there. Now, here's the interesting thing. The irony is that this one is fully supported, and this is the one that he challenged, asking what the source was to suggest as though it was somehow false. Wallachia and Moldavia had chattel slavery, and Orthodox monasteries owned slaves. Now, the important part about the Orthodox piece is these are Orthodox Christians, which is what Jay is. Roma slavery existed for centuries in Wallachia and Moldavia. The state, boyars, monasteries, church institutions were among slave holders. Critically important. Atheists have IQs about 6 points higher than religious people. This is actually a fact. It says needs qualification, irrelevant to motion. Yeah, it actually is irrelevant to the argument. That is correct. I was just explaining to Jay why the religious fools are not able to grasp what I'm saying. Meta-analytic research has found a modest negative correlation between intelligence and religiosity, but a fixed 6-point gap is not a universal individual level fact. Even if accurate in a study, it does not adjudicate Christianity's truth or goodness. This is correct. It was not germane to the argument. Agree. The Soviet Union killed 20 million Orthodox Christians. This is from Jay. We're back to the lies, right? It says unsupported. This is a complete lie from Jay. The Soviet Union killed 20 million Orthodox Christians, and China killed 60 million people. Those are genocides. Soviet anti-religious persecution was severe, but 20 million Orthodox Christians killed is not a standard scholarly estimate. Mao-era excess death estimates reach into the tens of millions, not 60 million. So again, blatant lies on the part of Jay. It's extraordinary that this Christian fellow lies so much. Now, here's another one. You see Jay again, and it says false, false. Communists are necessarily atheists. This is Jay. False. Jay, Native American eradication is patently false because Native Americans still exist. False reasoning. And this is him being deceptive on purpose. This is a statement that he made in his closing statement. Marquette. African slavery was radically different, typically not inherited through birth and not racialized. It says mixed overgeneralization. African systems of servitude varied greatly. Many differed from racialized hereditary Atlantic chattel slavery, but hereditary status, sale, severe coercion, and chattel-like forms existed in multiple African societies. Gotcha. And then it says both. Okay, I guess that's not worth getting into. Accuracy, misrepresentation, and good faith reliability. Let's see. So this is Jay's lie about the 5,000 plus New Testament manuscripts. Jay says he already admitted in his opening statement that Christians have done wrong things. False self-description of the opening. Yeah, that was wrong, because in his opening, I even remarked immediately that he was overly optimistic and positive, imbalanced. Jay's opening presents Christianity's historical effects as benefit cases and does not admit Christian wrongdoing. He did acknowledge examples of wrongdoing later during Marquette's cross-examination, but not in the opening as he claimed, which is to say he blatantly lied. Jay repeatedly says Marquette claimed an empire is not made up as individuals. He repeatedly said it. Inaccurate paraphrase, which is to say he paraphrased what I said, lied. It was inaccurate. He misrepresented me. Marquette's actual distinction was that examples were not merely isolated individuals because he was pointing out entire empires and organized institutions, treating them as a denial that collectives contain individuals distorts the point being made. And that was his whole goal throughout the debate, was to distort the points, not to actually address the points, because in addressing the points, he would lose the argument wholly. Now, let's see. I just initiated another run of AI on this just so I have my own to check who won, just to make sure that this is objective, because I was curious. I'll see if I can do a screen share. I don't want to show too much. Actually, I'm gonna take a screenshot if you don't mind. Yeah, I'll take a screenshot of it and I'll just post the screenshots later. But I did. I'll tell you what I did real quick. Let me enlarge my face so you can see me, because I wanted to make sure that this AI is not biased or whatever was used to generate this report, which the report we can clearly see is accurate. So I typed in into AI, I wrote, analyze the debate from this link. Who won? Who did the moderator favor more? Who told more lies and logical fallacies? Who interrupted more? And identify the number of interruptions. So let's see. And I'm going to read from what I just ran right now. The first, and I'm going to read this straight down. It reads, bottom line, Jay Dyer interrupted more. The moderator leaned toward Jay, and Marquette Burton narrowly won the actual proposition, despite Jay giving the more polished closing. And I agree, he did have a polished closing. That's the point of doing your closing last. He certainly did, but I won the debate as it stated. Interruption audit. I counted the formal debate from minute 2:46 through 94:21, excluding the super chat discussion. An interruption required someone to begin before the opponent completed their thought. Back channels and moderator directed transitions were excluded, which maybe shouldn't have been excluded because apparently Cooley was working for the ops. But it reads, Jay Dyer clear interruptions were 52. Marquette interruptions were 40. That's a lot more. Come on now. So I was accurate there. And it's ironic that he interrupted more and lost the debate. Like, God damn. If you're going to cheat, at least win. Let's see. Lies, inaccuracies, and fallacies. And I'm just reading from what the analysis, I ran another analysis. I just want to make sure that his was reliable. Even though his said I won, and I know I won, I still want to run another one because you should never have a single point of failure. So I'm reading from the second analysis that I ran. I cannot responsibly call something a lie without evidence that the speaker knew it was false. I don't even know if that's the definition of a lie. Well, I guess that would be a lie as opposed to just being non-factual. Okay, maybe I can jive with that. Marquette made more sweeping factual overstatements, including 12 million dead. Communists are necessarily atheists. Everywhere there's Christianity, you'll find bloodshed. Now that last one was in a hyperbolic thing. I agree. And broad claims about all African slavery being non-hereditary. The accepted Atlantic trade estimates is approximately 12.5 million embarked, 10.7 million arrived, not 12 million deaths. But that does not account for the deaths in transit, the deaths during the march, the deaths in the maritime transportation. But fair enough. But you still see I'm in the ballpark. Jay said 60 million people died at the hands of Mao, and it was like, nah, more like 10 million. I said 12 million enslaved, and it's saying, well, 12.5 million embarked and 10.7 million arrived. So they're basically saying they tried to enslave 12 million and damn near 2 million died just in transit. Okay, you got me. Fair enough. Nevertheless, Marquette's central historical examples were substantially accurate. The deliberate abridged slave Bible existed and was used by British West Indies. The Dutch Reformed Church supplied biblical and theological sanctions for apartheid. sanctioned for apartheid. Orthodox institutions and monasteries owned slaves in Roma and Wallachia and Moldavia. The Vatican itself acknowledged the colonial powers used papal documents to justify oppression while disputing that this represented Catholic doctrine. Jay used more repeated argument level fallacies. Now here's the funny thing. The analysis that the gentleman sent in says that Jay used more fallacies. And I reran on I don't know what he ran his on. I reran on another AI and it also said Jay used more fallacies. Now here's the kicker. How is it that during the actual debate, he was the one obsessively talking about fallacies, but he was also the one that was using more fallacies? This is the nature of the devil. Anyways, Jay used more repeated argument level fallacies. Straw man. He repeatedly transformed Christian institutions, organized serious harms, challenging Christianity's good into one sinful Christian proves Christianity is false. False analogy. Disagreement about a diverse religious text is not analogous to disagreement over 2 + 2 = 4. False dilemma / equivocation. A collection can be unclear in places while containing other passages that clearly regulate or permit slavery. That's exactly what I said during the debate. Goddamn. Some parts are clear and some parts condone slavery, are not contradictory. Oh, I'm vindicated. Excellent. Burden shifting. Requiring Marquette to construct a complete secular meta-ethical system did not satisfy Jay's affirmative burden to prove Christianity is good for all people. Man, this boy is getting cooked. To cocaine and redirection. African, Muslim, communist, or atheist wrongdoings do not establish Christianity's goodness. 100%. Jay also overstated the manuscript evidence by describing more than 5,000 New Testament manuscripts belonging to Christianity's first few centuries. Most Greek manuscripts are considerably later. It gives a source on that. Marquette's principal fallacies were hasty generalization / composition, poisoning the well, mind reading, and occasionally shifting the sourcing burden. His remarks about religious people needing to lie, and again, agree, this is not inaccurate. That was not necessary a part of the debate. Moderation favoritism. The moderator showed mild to moderate preference for Jay. He protected both men's cross-examination and granted comparable extensions. However, he protected Jay's floor considerably more often, and it gives a whole bunch of timestamps. More importantly, around this timestamp, he effectively explained and strengthened Jay's mathematical analogy himself. Now, here's the comedy. Jay's mathematical analogy was proven to be a part of a logical fallacy. So Cooley jumped in to help him put together an argument that was not a legitimate argument. Extraordinary. Goddamn. More importantly, around this timestamp, he effectively explained and strengthened Jay's mathematical analogy himself. And around this other timestamp, he adopted Jay's framing that Marquette had failed to debate the proposition. Those were substantive interventions, not merely moderation. Then it says winner. Marquette won narrowly, approximately 54-46. The proposition was conjunctive. Christianity is true and good for all people. The negative side only needed to defeat 1/2. That's how brilliant I am. I knew that from the beginning. Come on now. Focusing on whether Christianity was good for Black people was therefore logically sufficient. If successful, it disproved good for all people. Marquette produced several verified examples of Christian churches, clergy, theology, and missionary institutions participating in or legitimizing slavery, apartheid, and cultural suppression. Jay mostly answered that sinful Christians do not disprove Christian doctrine. That may defend Christianity's abstract truth, and you notice I pointed out that he loves abstraction, but it did not establish universal goodness or adequately answer the institutional argument. Jay was more organized, more philosophically fluent, and delivered the better closing. Marquette hurt himself with personal attacks. Now, when you're debating someone who's a moron, I mean, goddamn, you kind of end up there sometimes. Exaggerating and weak source handling. Even so, Jay did not carry the affirmative burden of the proposition stated in the linked debate. Marquette won approximately 54-46. Settled. Marquette won. Two different objective runs on it. Now ask yourself, how is it that these dweebs can say anything else? How is it? They're zealots. Oh man, shout out to the new era of technology. Shout out. Man, they hate the truth, don't they? Oh, they hate the truth. Shout out to Elwood. He writes, apologies for the typo on the last message. I was saying the Christian church would not be so segregated if Christianity was the white supremacist true religion. Christianity is still a major vehicle of racism, though. Understood. And shout out to Marco, who just got the personal finance, stock, IRA, 401k, and real estate lesson. That was just $23. That is cheap. You can get that at skool.com/marquett/classroom. And that is uncomfortably cheap. I might need to go change that. That is crazy. Now, anyways, that was, I just did a quick run on AI because I just wanted to make sure that, is this what the AI is saying? And it is. So there you go. Now let's look back at the more in-depth explanation, because that was just, it went through everything and it summarized those pieces. Now let's go back to the in-depth one right here. That was sent over by Niaz, and I appreciate you. Okay. Jay says Marquette moved the goalposts from murder to genocide, demonstrably contradicted by the transcript. So remember, this is accuracy misrepresentation, also known as lies. So it's saying Jay claimed Marquette moved the goalposts from murder to genocide, and it reads demonstrably contradicted by the transcript. What's the transcript? The evidence. So it's saying Jay is an enormous liar. He made up things. Marquette invoked genocide in his opening and repeatedly before this exchange. This is one of the clearest false characterizations in the debate. The guy is an unrepentant, sinful liar. 20 million Orthodox Christians killed by the Soviet Union, 60 million in China. These are lies from Jay. Unsupported, materially misleading, anti-religious Soviet persecution and Mao-era deaths were catastrophic, but the specific figures are not what is stated. Jay repeatedly treats Marquette's refusal to contest Christianity's truth as failure to debate the motion. Repeated logical mischaracterization. So he was lying. The motion is conjunctive. A negative can defeat the affirmative by negating the goodness conjunction alone, unless a separate debate rule requires both, which was not the case. Native American eradication is called patently false because Native Americans still exist. Now, mind you, they barely exist because I didn't see my first Native Americans till I was taking my company on a retreat in northern Michigan. False reasoning and straw man. This is Jay again with the false reasoning, straw man. Group destruction or genocide does not require literal extinction. And Marquette's phrasing was eradicated largely, not wholly. So again, he lied on me. Conclusion on lying. The transcript supports saying that Jay made multiple false or materially misleading factual claims, repeatedly paraphrased Marquette inaccurately, and on some points persisted after the underlying distinction had been corrected. And that's what I said. After we pointed out that he was lying, he just kept lying. It was extraordinary. Nature. That is enough to criticize his factual reliability, argumentative fidelity, and apparent good faith precision. I'm gonna have to publish this. I got to figure out how can I upload a PDF to the community tab. It is not enough to establish intentional deception as a fact. A rigorous report should therefore say repeated false, misleading claims and mischaracterization, not simply Jay is a liar. But bro's lying his ass off though. Like, let's not discount that. Oh, goodness. Okay. So here's the fallacy audit. He has committed fallacies 24 times, more than twice as much as as I did, twice as much. Now, here's the irony, because he was whining about fallacies the whole time. Counting rule. One primary fallacy per discrete argumentative episode. Repeated wording inside the same episode is not multiplied. Borderline cases are excluded. Okay, so let's see. And you know what? I can't even lie. I don't have the energy to go through the details on these. I'm just going to give you guys a summary. Jay Dyer, 24 fallacies. We'll go down. Let's go down to Marquette Burton. Marquette Burton, 11 fallacies. So I think we can see Jay Dyer was lying and constructing illegitimate arguments at a way higher rate. Okay. And I think, wow, this thing has a lot of detail. Extraordinary. Very good. This is a great report. I'm going to have to post this up so that people can access it and look through it. So anyways, ladies and saints, God, those are the facts. Those are the facts. And I'm going to make sure that this report is available. And again, thank you to Nias for creating this. This is hugely valuable. And that's the mark of a productive, intelligent man. He produced, didn't say, I think. He says, hey, here's the evidence. Here's the facts. Wow. Extraordinary. Until next time, peace of the saints.